all about. I got soul, and I'm super bad. Ooh. I got soul, and I'm super bad.
Tell him.
Now I got a move that tells me what to do.
All right, we got Joseph Farah coming up here in about 5 minutes of WorldNet Daily and a bunch of other big guests. I appreciate Max Keiser spending so much time. I meant to get to all those calls, but that's the network phones. We just had to cut those off. So we'll give out our phone number, and those that we're holding can get back in on air. You know, being serious about this, Max, this is a scientific, eugenics-based gulag archipelago, casino gulag that you coined the term for, so you know that. And it's scientific. We've got to get the minions of the system to realize they're being poisoned, they're being dumbed down. This is beyond. I mean, British intelligence 150 years ago, 160 years ago, got all the top minds together and developed this current plan we're under. And they have been following the same plan, and they are pretty much in control. And so my biggest thing is psychologically with the truth, pointing out to minions of the system, hey, you know, do you really understand you're being poisoned and killed and dumbed down as well? And I think it is that absolute spiritual mental revolution that is going to change this. We have to defensively not go to the camps and say no and, you know, do that. But, you know, the Jedi uses the Force for knowledge and defense, never for attack, to be cheesy and use a quote from that. Any type of violence, they staged Oklahoma City. They staged this new, you know, patsy thing with the Federal Reserve to try to look like they're the victims when they're the violent ones. So I just really, you know, we're not in 1775. And look, if a civil war starts and we got to defend ourselves, you know, nobody's taking my kids to a FEMA camp for pervert New World Order to have their way with them. You know, it just ain't happening. But, you know, getting serious here and closing comments on what you see coming up. And, again, what the collapse that you see coming by next April will look like in closing. Max Keiser of MaxKeiser.com.
Don't forget to follow me on Twitter. No, I would say that if you notice, the strategy of the globalists, you know, is to pick off the most vulnerable first, build their war chest, and move on up the scale of vulnerability. We saw that in Europe. They picked off Ireland and Greece, and then they moving on to Spain and Italy because they make money picking off these smaller countries, and then they move on to bigger countries. I think in response, since we're dealing with a globalized problem, why not send 10,000 of your listeners or people around the world who are sympathetic to fighting the New World Order? Why not have those people go to Athens right now and be a part of the revolution that's happening in Greece today? Because it's a global problem. We need global solutions. America, the fight, by the time it gets to America, it'll be all over. We got us. And you said earlier in your show, you were saying something to the effect that, or your guest was talking about it, you have to dig down deep to find the root cause of the effect. The cause is sometimes hidden or masked or beneath several layers. Right now, in Athens, is the front line of the fight against the globalists. And therefore, it behooves anyone who wants to defeat the globalists to send a force right now to Athens to help fight against the globalists. You need a front. Open up these fronts. You need a front in Greece, Alex. That's what I'm saying.
Well, look, to have a front against banker occupation, people have got to understand it's a new type of war with mega banks that are monopoly people working with government to disenfranchise all of us. Max Keiser, thank you so much for spending time with us.
All right, buddy. See you later.
There he goes. Wow. I just want to read who's been on with us in the last, I don't know, what is it, 30 hours now? We've had Congressman Walter Jones, Greg Palast, Sean Stone, Jon Rappoport, Mike Adams, Webster Tarpley, George Noory, James Wesley Rawles, Linda West, Jakari Jackson, and all their guests they had on. Russell Dowden, Dan Bidondi, Syrian girl on the Al-Qaeda the West is putting into Syria, Rob Dude, David Icke, Gerald Celente, Michael Badnarik, Max Keiser, Joseph Farah, who we now are coming to, Amber Lyon, the CNN whistleblower, to give us even more. Incredible how they were told, you know, cover up the Bahrain massacres, Saudi Arabian-backed. Larry Pinkney, a real Black Panther, exposing how the new Black Panther Party is used to divide and conquer. John B. Wells, a syndicated radio host. Darrin McBreen, David Knight, and David Ortiz, Dan Bidondi, Paul Joseph Watson, Lord Christopher Monckton, Joel Skousen, and there are some surprise guests coming up as well. Infowars Money Bomb 2012, because it makes the globalist mad. I can't tell you how mad it makes Media Matters in the White House, because the White House transition chief runs it, and think Communism, I mean, Think Progress and all those other groups, how mad it makes them that, A, we've got little sponsors and listeners and subscriptions. You know, we fund this a lot of different ways. And I get sick of having, you know, I'm not complaining, running around, you know, like a hog looking for truffles, trying to fund things when I really want to just be covering news and you know, and getting national stories out. I'm not complaining. It's just it takes a lot to get this done. We're launching the magazine. We want to put up on free to air and a bunch of other systems that are clamoring for it. We just got to pay for it, and they're ready to pick it up on cable systems all over. I mean, it's big, but I mean, the uplinks are like $7,000, $8,000, $10,000 a month, depending on which one we get. Most of it isn't even uplinks now. It's like these file sharing things where your show isn't really live. None of them really are anymore, unless they like part of it's live and it goes to tape because it's uploaded to servers. Fiber optics. We got to put all this in. And I mean, one piece of equipment's like $100,000. We can spend our emergency backup, and then if things go bad, be in trouble down the road. So we don't want to do that. Donate, InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com, because InfoWars.com and this radio show and what we're doing is a platform for so many other people. And it doesn't even mean necessarily that like WorldNetDaily.com or WND.com needs us, but it's like they help us, we help them. Or Drudge certainly doesn't, quote, need Infowars.com, but it's a synergy. Or countless AM and FM stations, or Ron Paul, or the countless Congress people we have on that, or investigative journalists that say, hey, I can't ever get on the air with this. And we now have something that the globalists hate. There's only a few outlets, Drudge Report chief amongst it, and WorldNet Daily. Used to be Newsmax. You really don't really see much of that anymore. I'm not knocking them. It's just more of an advertisement thing purely, and quite successful. So there's Infowars.com, there's WorldNet Daily, above us, there's Drudge, and that's it. And let me tell you, that's lonely because it also makes us targets. But we're the only ones that can break a story out and force it out. Take Creator Syndicate, Thomas Sowell, the economist, professor, author, and then we're going to Joseph Farah of WorldNet Daily, the founder of it, and the Western Journalism Center. Used to run big newspapers before he founded that, trailblazed the web. You know, he came out a week and a half ago, and he said, look at all these tweets and stuff, and he's a black guy, and he said, they're saying, you know, there's a white girl bleed, you know, we're going to riot, we're going to do this if Obama doesn't win. So I said, you know what, let me just look that up. And there was all this stuff. So I told Watson, hey, so there's some articles about this, Economic Collapse blog, and others post it. Drudge picks it up. Then I'm attacked within 12 hours as being a racist, and it doesn't exist on these big news stories. So I go, that's it. Go get more tweets. There's thousands. And Watson goes, well, I've posted 12. I go, that isn't enough. Link to hundreds. He goes, I don't have time. So then they accuse us and say, oh, they say there were more, but there weren't. Now the Weekly Standard's confirmed with the Secret Service that indeed they are visiting people. Now I saw another news article today. They're going and actually arresting people and or at least bringing them into custody who said, I'm going to shove an Uzi in Romney's mouth and kill him. People have already taken that on YouTube and cut me out saying that. I didn't say kill Romney. I'm reporting on what their tweets say, and everybody knows that. But the point is, I've been visited by the Secret Service before here in my offices going, well, you're making a film about Obama being deceptive. What do you think about that? It was actually FBI that time. And I'm like, you need to leave. This is the First Amendment. This is America. So clear intimidation, then calling my employees before the Obama deception came out, asking them about it, just trying to creep people out. And it does creep people out. I've got some new crew members that heard this the other day and hadn't heard the story. They're like, the FBI really came here in the Secret Service? And they look scared. Folks, that's the whole point. These people by the thousands are saying, kill Romney, burn down cities, and then we're reporting on it and we're the bad guys. But now it's been confirmed. So, and I'm not even defending Romney. Everybody knows that. I don't like the double standard. And I don't like the fact that I can get threats and stuff and nothing's done. I don't like the fact that as somebody who's an old-fashioned American who wants basic freedom and mom and apple pie, I'm the bad guy. And Joe Farah talked about this, Joseph Farah of WorldNet Daily, last time he was on. He said, listen, from all the intel I've gotten, he said, I didn't support Sean McCain 4 years ago. He wrote a book saying, you know, none of the above of that title. I'm going from memory on it, but I did read it. And he said, look, we're dead or in jail if Obama gets back in. And you know what? He didn't support McCain 4 years ago. He attacked Bush and wrote books about him and published books about him with Dr. Corsi about the New World Order and North American Union and all this. So I want to ask him again out of the gates, why is he saying that? Because We see now re-education camps in the new Army training manual, and the Army admits, yeah, that's our manual. That is new. We see these draconian attacks on the press. I've had Chris Hedges, you know, the big liberal on New York Times, former bureau chief from the Middle East, saying, no, Obama is far worse. They are arresting reporters all over. They are signing executive orders where if you're involved in any foreign charity, they're trying to shut down getting passports in this country now. I mean, this is real. And I wish that if Romney got in, he would be better. Does Joseph Farah think that's really true? We'll find out. But he's with us for 50 minutes now. That's my introduction. Joseph, good to have you back on. What do you want to get into first?
I love your introductions because as you're introducing me, you're making my brain work. I want to comment on practically every single thing you just said. It's an amazing monologue, Alex, and thanks for having me.
You bet.
But yeah, you know, my opinion on the basic question that you raised is, you know, can America afford to have 4 more years of Obama? And the answer is no. And you know, as I've said before on your show, I am no fan of Mitt Romney. I have no illusions that a Romney presidency is going to solve the basic problems that we have, you know, besetting our country right now. But I do believe that we, you know, the best we can hope for is that we can buy ourselves some time so that you and Drudge and Farah and others out there who are, you know, fighting for the Constitution, fighting for our God-given liberties in America, have enough time to reach America with the truth of what's going on out there.
Because liberty is on an upward arc. I think that's why the tyranny's moving so quick. It realizes it's in trouble.
Yeah, I agree. But to a great extent, you know, I think there's a big part of America is still deaf, dumb, and blind to what's going on around them because, you know, they're accepting at face value what they get from the lamestream media. They don't know about Alex Jones. They don't know about WND. And that remains a problem. And what Obama knows is that if he gets reelected, the key to destroying the very fabric of this country, which is ultimately his goal. I mean, I think that is his goal. That is the goal of the Democratic Party establishment.
Joseph, I have said this on air. I was watching the last debate a few nights ago with my wife, and when Obama said, yeah, I want to ban semi-autos, that's what he means by assault weapons and pistols, handguns, I looked at her and I said, I've said I'm not going to endorse either one of these people. I know they're both globalists, but, I mean, he's saying he's coming for our guns. He won't be facing re-election. He'll have pardons and executive orders. And my gut told me, my gut, it said, you better support Romney. And I came on air and admitted that. People are like, you're against the left-right paradigm, Alex. You're going against everything you've said. All I'm saying is my gut said, danger, Will Robinson. Is that why you're saying we're dead if Obama?
That's exactly what I'm saying. It brings me no joy to come to your show today and tell people that I'm eagerly actually awaiting Election Day so that I can cast a vote against Obama. I'm the guy, as you mentioned, the none of the above guy. You know, the guy who wrote a book said, look, you know, the standard has to be don't vote for anybody who doesn't support the Constitution, period, end of story. And I have to eat those words today because our country is in such a sad state of affairs that we really have no choice but to vote for the lesser of two evils, I believe, in this election, because there may not be another election if we don't do that. You know, sometimes principles sound great, and you know, and that's what I believed that in 2008 with all my. In fact, I said, look, you know what, Obama's actually going to cause a reawakening in this country among freedom-loving people. He did that. He did that because... But
it wasn't enough because he got doubled the food stamps and he's got all these people wanting Obama phones.
That's right, but he did turn up the temperature high enough where it created the Tea Party movement and it created a new awareness in this country, but it wasn't enough. You know, and
he's on television saying he's going to ban semi-autos and extrajudicially just say people have mental problems and put you on a no-gun list, like a no-fly list, as Rahm Emanuel promised to do. I mean, let me tell you, when he was sitting there saying he's coming for my guns, it was just like, I mean, that is arrogant, I mean, to sit there and say that.
You know what his definition of people with mental problems is, don't you? That's you and me.
Oh, yeah, they've said that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
So we got our hands full. I sympathize with everything you said in that, especially when you were talking about the fact that, you know, what you want to do, Alex, is really, you know, report the news. But that's a full-time job for any of us. And the reason I sympathize with you is I've been there for the last 15 years, you know, begging and scraping and for the dollars to do this job, you know, reaching as many people as we can reach, knowing that, you know, if we had the resources, man, what could we do with them, you know? How many more people could we reach? And you know, I encourage all of your listeners to support you, you know, with whatever they have, because, you know, you represent, you know, maybe the last hope for this country.
Well, all of us do together, but I mean, that's what's scary is to know there's not that many really prominent groups that can actually break something out and push it out there, because once they can shut everybody down, I mean, we've got liberty within our grasp. That's the thing. We're in the game, but it is a struggle, and if more people would just wake up, we would beat these people. That's what's so frustrating is we know how dire the straits are, and you know, I don't know about you, but, you know, I have private discussions with my wife, which, you know, like, she's like, man, Switzerland, you know, let's get out of here. And I'm like, listen, I know, I mean, we're down to that point privately. This is not rhetoric for listeners is what I'm saying. Joseph, I'm just going to guess. Have you and your wife ever discussed getting out of here?
Yes, we've discussed it a lot in the last year, and particularly in the last few months when, you know, we look at this election and we see, you know, hey, this thing, you could flip a coin right now. And probably be as accurate as the polls in terms of, you know, who's going to win this thing. What happened? Where do we go? Because I can tell you that this country, you know, will not resemble the country we've known for most of our lives with another 4 years of Obama in office.
And that's the collectivist model. They bankrupt, they shut down the economy. They don't care if it makes the place poor. They like that. And then they've got the little chicken feed baubles with the domesticated, poor, pathetic slaves. It's such a horrible scenario to see that it's finally come. What people warned about 50 years ago, we are finally a rotting, corrupt empire run by communists.
Yeah, we're an election away from losing America. And it may not be this election. It might be the next one. But, you know, that's how close we are. And, you know, it's time for a social revolution in this country. I don't mean, you know, gun toting.
Yeah, that's what Max Keiser was saying earlier. How do we revolt? I mean, how do we get really aggressive? I mean, people need to really understand, folks. You didn't just listen to Joseph Farah or Alex Jones or going to WorldNetDaily.com or Infowars.com. Everybody needs to stand up. Listen, everybody I know that goes to Baptist, Catholic, Methodist churches, friends, family, you name it, they're all being told the government's good, Obama's good, the conservative preachers removed, weirdos are put in, and then they talk to family in another state. It's happening there. I mean, there is a lot of creepy takeovers going on right now.
Absolutely. It's happening everywhere. You know, the cultural institutions that we once counted on to uphold our values are crumbling before our eyes. And, you know, this is a long-term trend. This isn't something new. This isn't something Obama created, but Obama has put it on steroids. Obama and his friends in the big media. You know, it's like it's hard to you got to search out the truth now. To a great extent, Alex, you know, the internet was a boon to alternative viewpoints that people like you offer, but you know, it's still. You know, it's like you point out, you're operating on fumes half the time, you know? So am I. The money that we have to spend on doing what we do is, you know, what, tiny, minuscule fraction.
Not even 1%. Not even 1% of an MSM.
What a communist outfit like MSNBC spends. Now, go figure that out. I mean, you talk about audience. Not even audience. The audience doesn't even matter. We have bigger audiences than them, but they have hundreds of millions, and we have a million. And
that's what's frustrating is that we can see that if we had the money. Because you've run some of the biggest newspapers in the country. I mean, we know these plans would work. If we just had more money and more support, and the listeners who've already been energetic would get out there and be even more energetic, we know victory is within our grasp. But that's what's so frustrating, is that we can really get our hands politically around the throat of this tyranny, but it's going to take people getting up off the couch.
That's right. And one of the reasons for this is, I know this is true for you, because I know it's true for me. If it's true for me, it's true for you. We have heard, that advertisers are afraid to advertise on WND, even though they like our numbers.
Oh, they tell us that every day.
What happens is that the pressure groups out there go after them, boycotts, all kinds of,
See, I never talk about that, and maybe I should, but I don't. Sometimes it encourages them. Well, we have people that call all our sponsors and try to get rid of them. Yep. We have people that try to get rid of our stations. I mean, the dirty tricks. We don't really talk about it. It's incredible.
Yeah. And it's a full-time job combating that, whereas you and I, what we want to do is we want to spend our time telling people about the news. And
the enemy knows that. They know if we're busy worrying about threats of suits or people calling affiliates or people messing with sponsors, I'm busy running around dealing with that all day instead of putting out information.
Right. So let me ask you a question.
Sure.
Who are you going to vote for?
Well, I mean, it's not a question here in Texas. You know who's going to win Texas.
Well, that's true. Your vote doesn't even count. But here in Virginia, it counts. This is considered a battleground state, and so I gotta go out there and protect myself. That's the way I look at this election right now. This is self-preservation. It may not be self-preservation for the average person listening to us right now, but I got to tell you that for Alex Jones and Joseph Farah and a handful of other very, very outspoken people out there, this election is a matter of self-preservation. We probably will not be doing what we're doing right now, one way or another, if Obama's reelected. That's just my absolute gut conviction. I don't believe that we will be permitted to do what we're doing if Obama's reelected.
My son goes to Christian homeschool events, but, homeschooling's a huge all over the country, but really big in Austin. So there's a lot of kids there. And there's actually Democrats that are there. And my son, if he just says he doesn't like Obama when the kids are running around pushing it, they say, I want you arrested. And they go tattle to the camp, counselor. And then we heard that teacher say, you'll be arrested if you criticize Obama. I mean, we're not just saying this. These are authoritarians.
Yeah, well, look at the guy who made the video about, Islam, a satire.
Arrested.
Yeah. He's still in jail as far as I know. I mean, whatever happened to the First Amendment? It's amazing what is going on. And that, how often do you see that reported on television in the
No, when they arrested him, that was the only report.
Yeah, that's it. The end of the story. We may never hear from the guy again.
Man, listen, so much I know is on your radar screen. Joseph Farah of WorldNetDaily.com, WND.com is our guest here. We're going to go to break here in about 4 or 5 minutes. But when we go to break, when we start now, where do you see things going geopolitically? Obviously, I'm not a fan of what Iran's doing, threatening to blow up Israel, which is really a crazy move when Israel has a lot more weapons than they do, nuclear among them. But separately, you've got Turkey, NATO, the U.S., and others, now New York Times admits, giving weapons to al-Qaeda in Syria. They already gave them Libya. Mm-hmm. While saying, I've got to give all my rights up, for TSA because al-Qaeda may be in my wife's, bra. So, I mean, how do we navigate that craziness?
Well, there's no other way for you and me to do it other than by, telling people the truth, what's really going on. and what you say is an absolute fact. We should now be able to see, at least in retrospect, everybody listening to us should be able to see that the creation of the whole Homeland, Security behemoth was, not only a huge mistake, but it was a disaster for this country. And we can't blame Obama for that. That was a George Bush thing, and it's now one of the most bloated bureaucracies in Washington. I know a lot of people who work for Homeland Security. You probably do too. Most of them tell me they have no work to do whatsoever. They sit around for 8 hours. The ones who do work are doing terrible things to the American people. Well, you said that months ago. Since then, 2 weeks ago, the Senate report came out admitting billions spent never targeting real terrorists, only harassing and putting Americans, mainly conservatives, on lists. Right. That's what it's all about. It's about the furtherance of big government, extra constitutional government, the deprivation of individual liberties. This is what we're creating, and that's a Republican creation. And so if somebody hears me say that, they probably would ask, well, but you're telling us to vote for Romney? And I'm saying, yeah, because again, what Obama will do in the next 4 years, I think I got some insight here. And again, I'm not just pushing a book, but I think Aaron Klein outlines this better than anybody else in his book, Fool Me Twice, which is mind blowing. The plans that are on the written plans of the Obama inner circle for what they're going to do in the next 4 years. It's scary. It's scary beyond words. It's nightmarish. It's Orwellian, and we've got to stop it. We just cannot let that happen. And by the way, it's all over for America. America's done if that happens. Do you remember 3 years ago when Chicago schools said parents can't pack lunch? Now I've confirmed it's happening in Colorado and other states. And now they literally say, Michelle Obama says what you eat. And they're now saying we're going to tell parents what to pack. Yeah, and I'm convinced things like that are just really what they're doing. That's conditioning. But just conditioning Americans to accept the fact that, you're a subject. You are a subject of the government. The government has every right and power to tell you everything about your life, what you can do, what you can't do. And, what other purpose is there to something like that? They can't honestly believe that the government cares more about your children than parents do. They can't really believe that. They can't really believe that the government knows what's better for your children than parents do. What it is it's just an effort to show that we can do anything we want to you. And there are consequences for, disobeying our will. We're going to go to break. We're going to play a piece that John Bound did about the Hegelian dialectic of problem, reaction, solution, or false flag. But when we come back, I want to look at where you see things going in the election, because, there are thousands of tweets and Facebooks saying they plan violence, people, if Obama doesn't win. And if not this election, down the road, the armies of dependents, how they can be used as weapons against those of us that are actually productive members of society. We're going to look at that. And Joseph Farah, let me just throw this at you, because I know you got a million things to talk about. After we cover that, what are a few of the things you're going to want to talk about? No earthly. No, but there's a lot of powerful stories at WorldNet Daily that I've been, just reading today. There's so many things on the radar screen. We'll talk about Iran. We'll talk about some of the Dr. Corsi articles about North American Union back on the front burner. We'll cover that all. He, of course, is the founder of the Western Journalism Center. His bio is lengthy. He's run some of the biggest newspapers in the country. And he's Joseph Farah, the founder of WorldNetDaily.com. I'm Alex Jones of Infowars.com. Just briefly, I've been doing this 48-hour thing and barely even plugging that we're doing a fundraiser for satellite uplink equipment and some other stuff. We've got some of these boards out here that are $30,000, folks. They're not even prosumer. We've got to get better equipment just for national TV, because they're always locking up. And
well, the guys, want to smash the equipment in there. But thank you for all your support, whether you buy water filters, T-shirts, eBay things. It all goes to the Money Bomb, InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com, or link through at Infowars.com. We're going to go to this nightly news report, some of the things we're producing thanks to the help with last year's Money Bomb, how far we've come in just 12 months. And then we're going to come back with Joseph Farah of WorldNet Daily. I'm Alex Jones. Stay with us.
The global banking cartel has used one tried and true process to create wars, rob us of our currency, and eat away at our substance. This process of control over the masses is called the Hegelian dialectic. So what is it, and how is it being used today? German philosopher George Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel devised a dialectic, or method to resolve a disagreement between outcomes. The dialectic is made up of three attributes: thesis, an idea or opinion; antithesis, the opposite idea or opinion; and synthesis, the alchemic process to bring together a wanted change. It is commonly referred to as order out of chaos, and is waged against the masses in many forms. Saul Alinsky, self-avowed Marxist, proponent of the Hegelian dialectic, published this in Rules for Radicals: any revolutionary change must be preceded by a passive, affirmative, non-challenging attitude toward change among the mass of our people. They must feel so frustrated, so defeated, so lost, so futureless in the prevailing system that they're willing to let go of the past and chance the future. George Bush became the hero of 9/11 simply due to the fact that he was the president, and then rammed through legislation that threatened our liberties as we all complacently stood by and allowed it to happen. A manufactured crisis occurs, thesis. George Bush answers it by rallying public opinion and becoming the host of the tragedy, antithesis, thus owning the crisis through synthesis. Equilibrium is attained. All of the once separate parts of the plan are joined together. In this example, the Patriot Act acting as the equilibrium on the desired road to tyrannical fascism in America.
They're too good at what they're doing. They create the crisis on record. They sell the fraud. Then they say, give us more power. Give up your sovereignty, Europe, America, and we'll fix it. But then it only implodes faster. They make bigger bonuses, but they're destroying their own golden goose. They're hacking it open greedily. When it's giving them a golden egg every morning, they think there's eggs inside. I think the point you made of because they're on record creating this to consolidate power. They've bragged about it. Those memos have been made public by Goldman Sachs and others. But they're going to fry things so badly, the bankers are all running to private islands with their own security teams. I mean, like they want to rule everything so much and have just so many digits in their bank accounts that they're going to devalue the value of the digits through their sheer greed.
That is a possibility. And if you look at the Hegelian dialectic, if that crisis at the beginning spins out of control, they lose the tail end of the dialectic, don't they? There will be no synthesis at the end. They'll be lucky if they survive.
Another method to manipulate the masses is the use of two opposing views to attain the desired view. Politician A espouses the first view. Politician B counters with the differing view. A clear example of this was the debate over the unconstitutional NDAA bill of 2012.
I strongly believe that the United States government should not have the ability to lock away its citizens for years and perhaps decades without charging them and providing a heightened level of due process. We don't pick up citizens. We don't incarcerate them for 10 or 15 or 20 years or until hostilities end, and no one knows when they will end, without giving them due process of law.
The great concern that we have now in terms of the security of the homeland is from so-called homegrown terrorists, radicalized Americans. So these people, in my opinion, have taken sides. They've joined the enemy. And to have this body at this time, as the threat of homegrown terrorism rises, say no, they can't be treated as enemy combatants, is not only doesn't make sense and is totally unresponsive to the facts that I've just described.
President Obama threatened to veto the bill as long as it contained the section concerning due process, and then quickly changed his mind before the final version was voted through Congress. Obama then told the media that the version he had signed was revised to eliminate any threat to freedom of American citizens, even though this was not true, and the bill gives extraordinary powers to detain American citizens without a trial. The media synthesized Obama's lie by claiming that Obama will not use the powers he now has. The desired result is synthesized by mainstream media as they turn a blind eye to the debate. The American people cave into the lie because the process it is attached to seems so familiar. John Bound, Infowars Nightly News.
There's an old saying in Tennessee, I know it's in Texas, probably in Tennessee, that says, "Fool me once, shame on you. If fool me, we can't get fooled again."
He aligns himself with the truth, and it's time for you to choose a side. You're listening to Alex Jones.
And Joseph Farah, it's part of the 48-hour transmission that ends at 11 a.m. Central, 12 noon Eastern tomorrow. InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com. And I'm not doing like PBS begging for money every 10 seconds. If you believe this information is important, you want to see it reach tens of millions more people every month, then go donate at InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com. And the donations are really starting to come in. If you'd like to call and donate, it's 888-253-3139, 888-253-3139, and the great folks are in there to take your call. You can also go to InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com and donate $100, get one of these great camouflage shirts that everybody I know just loves, with the Dayglow Hunter Orange, Liberty or Death 2012 Money Bomb shirt, with the evil pro-America Gadsden rattlesnake on it, and so much more. Frank just gave $365. Samantha, $365. I guess that's one of those items you get when you do that. Toby, $365. Kevin, $500. Joseph, $500. Susan, $500. Anna, $1,000. David, $1,000. Greg, $1,000. Hobart, $100. Mark L, $25. Christopher, $50. David, $25. We're crossing out their last names here. Vera's Fashion, Jewelry, and Accessories, $25. They wanted their name in there, so that's good. We'd plug it. By the way, Cabo Bob's, without asking, called us and brought us some of the best tacos in Austin, Texas. So some other restaurants, they don't want to be named. We're going to be like 800 pounds after this. But thank you. Cabo Bob's is just awesome. Cabo Bob's of Austin. But InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com. I mean, it's real simple. The Money Bombs, I don't know, I've raised about $2 million the last 4 years. And it really helped me be able to go, okay, well, I can now buy this equipment, or I can now do that. And this Money Bomb is going to enable us, if it continues to come in, to be able to get the... See, most TV isn't satellite uplinks now. We're going to do that too. But then it's all proprietary with big companies that won't unscramble, and it's all these corporations trying to keep you off the air. Glenn Beck had trouble getting on Dish Network. But there's these global free-to-air systems. We're already getting the show downloaded every night and aired in England on mainline cable. I mean, Paul Watson can see it on TV every night. Cable systems owned by Patriots or managed by Patriots, all of the U.S. are downloading and editing it and airing it themselves. Now it'll be packaged, sent out at 7 o'clock, but also they're in archives for people and vignettes. It's going to be even better. I mean, it's already amazing what we've done. This is the beta test. And now we're going to the next level. So InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com. Plus, I'm tired of being intimidated that you shouldn't ever ask for money, or you shouldn't sell books or videos. No, I should just get banker bailout money like George Soros and then use it, to try to restrict the First Amendment, or give, billions of dollars of bailout money to NBC and MSNBC. It's a joke. They always take our money and then use it against us. And then when Nightline or MSNBC is here at my office, I don't even let them come here now. They've called in the last few months. But in the last few years, I'd let them come here. And they're like, you make money? Oh, this is a big office. You're making... I'm like, well, you don't make money? What matters is what I stand for. People can judge whether it's true or not. Joseph Farah, I want to get back to you here and talk about all the death threats, all the rest of it. I really appreciate you joining us. in the middle of this special transmission today. But separately, getting back to funding, and then we'll get into all the death threats to Romney and the threats to riot, because I want your take on that big national story in the last week. But what do you make of this? I'm sure you've seen it, this intimidation that those of us that aren't communist or socialist or fascist, that we're bad, that we go out and put our ideas in the marketplace of the world. So, I mean, I love how communists and socialists and collectivists criticize us when we pay our own way.
Exactly. It's funny when you mentioned, we're not doing the PBS thing here. You ever notice what PBS does when they raise money? They actually put on programming that attracts people. It's the only time you'll ever see anything on PBS that might actually interest you. It's usually entertainment-oriented. It's not political. That's what those are the devices they use. It's like a bait-and-switch operation, whereas you and I, when we raise money, we do the same thing we do every single day, right?
Exactly, yeah.
That's what's really going on here. But with regard to these threats, I mean, think about it. If these threats are being made, and they are, against Romney, who's, basically Mr. Milquetoast out there, I'm not even sure that Romney hasn't been, anointed as the successor here. It's the old story: one step forward, two steps back, that kind of thing. But the reality is, there are threats being made against Romney, viable, real-time, real-life threats. If they can get away with that with the presidential candidate, what can they get away with Alex Jones and Joseph Farah, or Breitbart or whoever? And this is increasingly worrisome for people like us. And it's a reality we have to live with and possibly die with. That's the world we live in now. I don't think America has ever been, with the possible exception of, during the Civil War, more stratified as a nation than it is right now. It's like there are two Americas. There's the America that still believes in the founding principles, and there's an America that wants to be just like all the other nations in the history of the world which were, top-down tyrannies. And so, we're in a bad way right now, but thank heaven you're out there slugging away, and I am, and a few other patriots who have some kind of a platform to use.
Couldn't say it any better myself. Joseph Farah of WorldNet Daily joins us. Joseph, what do you, in your gut, think is going to happen day one if Obama was to lose? Because, I mean, I track all the polls. It does look like Romney has either closed on him or surpassed him in almost every poll, and we know that polls have always been leaning towards the Democrats. I mean, why does the power structure like Democrats? I mean, clearly in that debate, even if you don't like Romney, it's clear that Aleister Crowley and Obama were teaming up. I'm sorry, Candy Crowley. Sorry, I was an accident. Mr. Maddow, whatever. We're teaming up against Romney and just trying to interrupt. I mean, they were desperate, and Obama looked really freaked out and beady-eyed.
Yeah, and the time difference in terms of who got to speak longer. I mean,
Obama got, what, 9% longer? Yeah, you're right, 9% longer, 28 interruptions versus 9.
And by the way, Candy Crowley has gotten a lot of heat, and rightfully so. I think she stepped that, over the line a few times. But what I want people to recognize is Candy Crowley is actually probably one of the better journalists in America today. On a scale of 1 to 10, she's high up there as somebody who is not, completely 100% sold out to to the tyrant. And she's a reporter. Look, she didn't get there because of her looks. That's clear. So they put her out there. To give her some credit, she actually apologized for stepping into the debate at one point.
No, you're right. I'm being a little mean because when the president says, "Isn't that right?" I mean, you're going to be apt to, sit there and say that one more time. But
what's interesting is she actually apologized for correcting Romney when he wasn't wrong, but her network, they continue to push the idea that Obama had actually characterized what happened in Benghazi as a terrorist attack when he really didn't. For 2 weeks, he really didn't do that. It was a spontaneous uprising by an unruly mob. It wasn't organized. This is the kind of thing that goes on. But this debate was frustrating, I believe, for people like you and me, because neither one of the candidates gave answers that were very inspiring or really dealing with the root issues that are plaguing America today. And again, I don't want to be characterized as a Romney booster any more than I was, falsely accused of supporting Bush when I never did. But the problem is we're in a unique scenario today. We're so close to full-scale tyranny, and I believe that if Obama's reelected, we will see it happen in a very short order. First Amendment gone, Alex Jones gone, Joseph Farah gone, and maybe for some people that wouldn't mean that much to them. But I hope to your listeners and to my readers, they will recognize that it's got a very thin veneer here left between full-scale tyranny and the possibility of returning America to its constitutional heritage.
And the thing is, that's not rhetoric. But I understand why people in Nazi Germany and other tyrannies didn't get out quick enough, because you love the country, you're there, you still think you can change it, and you can't believe it's happening.
That's right.
And you haven't done anything wrong, so why should you leave? They don't care. I mean, I watch TSA and other feds and people, they are there to treat you like crap and let you know you're crap.
That's right. Well, what we're trying to hold on to is what America was supposed to stand for, what it once stood for. That's what we're trying to do. It's not like we're trying to go back in time. It's not like we're want to regress.
No, we want the essence of the dream of America that we were trying to perfect. Instead, it's turned into a nightmare. I mean, we want just basic private property, due process, level playing field, the public's treated with respect, we the people, we're the boss. And instead, anybody who's read a history book knows this is a classical tyranny we're going into.
Yeah, absolutely. Nobody says it better than you, Alex.
Oh, I don't think so. What else is on your radar screen? I mean, what do you think is front and center right now with this election? Because, one
of the things that we've been covering uniquely, I have to say, is that here's what's about to happen. I'll let you in on a little secret, unless you already read it in WND. And that is that shortly, probably in the next few days, Obama's going to announce a major diplomatic breakthrough with Iran. The whole thing's phony from the get-go. In fact, what I can tell you is basically what he did was he sent his political advisor, his number one political advisor, Valerie Jarrett, to meet with a representative of the Ayatollah in Qatar on October 1st, or approximately October 1st, and basically say, look, we need a solution. If Romney's elected president, he's going to let Israel bomb you guys. We have discouraged Israel from doing that. So what we want you to do is we want you to announce a temporary suspension of uranium enrichment, and what we'll do is we'll lift the sanctions on you guys as of March if we're reelected. And so you're probably going to see in the next few days this huge announcement by Obama, probably happen after the debate. And because only WND has reported this, and it hasn't really been picked up elsewhere to any extent, he can probably get away with it, even though we know we've provided all the details of this agreement. But you know that the mainstream media is just going, they're going to allow Obama to write their stories for them. That's the way it works.
No, that's now confirmed. And regardless of where people stand on Iran, that is a huge national story. And I've got to be honest, I look at your site a couple times a day. I had missed that. What's the headline on that? Because I got WorldNet Daily up right here on my screen, WND.com. I want to see that, because that is a huge national story that he plans to lift sanctions, according to your sources.
Yeah, Obama cuts deal with Iran over nukes. It's up there. Now, this is about our third story, with each one with more detail than the last. I mean, we know this meeting took place. I know, I can say this with 99% assurance, that Valerie Jarrett, Obama's closest advisor, in fact, I would say she's the most powerful woman in the country. He doesn't do anything unless he checks with Valerie Jarrett. He sent Valerie Jarrett to Qatar to meet with these folks and put together this deal. It's a phony deal, okay? No matter what you think about Iran, whether they have a right to have a nuclear bomb, whatever, he is going to announce that there's been this great breakthrough. They're suspending uranium enrichment when it's only a temporary suspension. It doesn't even have to do with...
So it's a political stunt. You know, I'll be honest with you, because I know there's all these different angles to this, but I do Japanese TV, I do, Russian TV, I do Argentinian TV, Brazilian TV, U.S. TV. I mean, especially if it's Skype, I can come in, do it quick. I say no to like Discovery Channel, History Channel now, because they want to come in for like 2 days and take over, even though it's big shows. But RT would want me on every 2 weeks or so the last few years, and I'd go on because it's on cable systems around the world. I can talk about the New World Order and stuff. But the minute that I started criticizing Obama in this election, I mean, it was like, and not that I even care because I don't have a very big audience, boom, never back on RT again. And I think that, I think for whatever reason, Russia does favor Obama.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so too. Well, you remember those famous off-mic remarks that Obama made that weren't quite off-mic. Just wait until after the election, and we'll straighten all that out. And just need a little time to deal with that. And this is the message that Valerie Jarrett brought to Iran. We need your help to get reelected. Is there any question in anybody's mind that Iran would rather see Obama in the White House than Romney?
Well, let me ask you this. Why does Iran, because I know they're smart folks over there, they're really smart, they're some of the smart people around historically, why do they? Because, I mean, there's been some misinterpretations of what Ahmadinejad says, but lately they have been saying we're going to blow up Israel, we're going to wipe it off the map. Why would they be doing that while all these weapons are massing around them? I mean, that is crazy.
Well, that's a good question. I think it's because, this is my personal feeling, I don't believe that they would ever nuke Israel. It doesn't make any sense from a strategic point of view, because you end up killing more Muslims than Jews, and that's not their goal. I think those nuclear weapons are meant to come over the border and be used on us. That's my personal. People say, they don't have a delivery system. Why are we worried about
bringing in a container ship?
Yeah, their delivery system is on a backpack walking over the border.
Yeah, but I mean, why does Iran sit there and say that? I mean, I don't want war, but why does Iran sit there and say we're going to blow you up?
Because it allows. Iran is at war with Saudi Arabia, quiet, cold war with Saudi Arabia. They want to be perceived in the Middle East and throughout the Muslim world as the real strong guys.
The big swinging, you know what?
That's right. There's the Shiites and you got Saudi Arabia representing the Sunnis, and Saudi Arabia's got a lot of money. They basically buy politicians off. Iran, by the way, wonders why it is that the U.S. likes Saudi Arabia and doesn't like them. They really wonder about that. They have this on very good inside intel from a member of my wildest dreams because the Saudis just give them millions of dollars. Every single one of them, from Bush Sr., Clinton, Carter, George W. Bush. They leave office, whether if they were wealthy before, they're wealthier after. It all comes from Saudi Arabia. Iran doesn't play that game. They play a game of bluster. That's their game. And they get a lot of attention doing it.
Yeah, no, I mean, Saudi Arabia is smarter. They give them those $1 million speaking engagement consultancies. And if a U.S. president, gets $10 million over a couple of years from Saudi Arabia when they retire, well, that's what I'm saying. Iran's really smart in ways, but also really dumb.
Yeah, and they talk out of both sides of their mouth. One minute they tell you, no, we don't want to have a war with Israel. Next moment, we're going to eradicate all the Jews from the Middle East. I mean, what are you supposed to believe? If you're Israel, what are you supposed to believe? Are you supposed to take the best case scenario or the worst case scenario? That's why Israel really feels genuinely threatened by Iran. That's why Israel is not, in my opinion, doing more to fight this Muslim Brotherhood spreading throughout Syria and Egypt and so forth, because they figure the most immediate threat they face is Iran. That the long-term threat might be that the Muslim Brotherhood takes power in every surrounding country. Well, that's a nightmare too, but it hasn't happened yet. But Iran, they believe, is imminently going to have nuclear weapons that they can fire at them. And that's something that...
So what's the word? Will Iran get hit as an October surprise before the election, after, or is that off?
I'm sorry, I missed that.
Will Iran get hit before the election, after, or is that off?
Iran's not going to be hit at all now because, not before the election for sure. And if Obama gets his way and gets reelected with his little October surprise, which is this, diplomatic breakthrough that he announces, then it's going to be very difficult for Israel to do anything.
Who do you think, in closing, is really behind the killing of the ambassador? Because I've heard Steve Pachinik say it was the neocons, and I've got other people saying it was actually Russians. And you do see consulates and heads of consulates getting blown up now, just like we saw in Lebanon today with a security person being killed. I mean, the Russians are going to strike back. There's a proxy war in Syria. Or was it really al-Qaeda jihadis that the West put in power there? What?
Well, that's what I believe. I believe that. I mean, you pointed out. Look, who are we helping all over the Middle East right now? Where's our money? In fact, that ambassador was bringing weapons to the same people who killed him. Now, could there be more of an explanation? Could there be more to it? I'm sure there is. Sometimes I wonder, for instance, okay, why didn't the guy have any security? Was he set up? I mean, did they want him dead for some reason? I mean, you have to look at all the possibilities here, and the fact of the matter is we just don't know. We just don't know yet.
No, I agree with you. We don't know. We just know it's ridiculous that I think what tells us what really happened, and I
know if I'm in the Middle East, I got more security than that ambassador had.
Exactly.
It makes no sense.
But I mean, expanding on that, why deny that it was coordinated and premeditated and professional, a.k.a. not a terrorist attack? Why deny that?
Oh, well, that's an easy one, because they would be admitting that the very people they've been aiding with weapons and money, the people they sided with, they chose to overthrow Gaddafi. Now, Gaddafi was a monster. We all know Gaddafi was a monster. We all know, Bashar Assad in Syria is a monster. But there are monsters and there are worse monsters. And what we did in Libya and what we did in Egypt and what we're doing in Syria is supporting the worst monster of the two possibilities. And so if it became known, and I think it is becoming known, that Obama chose to aid the wrong side.
Al-Qaeda.
Yeah. And it backfired on him. That doesn't make for very good headlines. That doesn't make for a very good story to tell when you're running for re-election.
And then Saudi Arabia buys off our politicians, but at the same time funds all the crazy jihadis, a.k.a. Wahhabist Al-Qaeda. What is their game? I guess just They're already 80% of Islam, I guess, just take over every country.
Yeah, it's really using money. They don't only buy the politicians. Look, they've invested hundreds of millions of dollars in our institutions like Harvard and Georgetown University, and they create, Arab studies departments and all this stuff. They push their ideology in so many ways. In fact, every law firm in Washington, practically every major law firm in Washington, they're doing business with to ensure that nobody can ever hire a law firm in Washington to go after the Saudis. I mean,
exactly.
They got their bases covered.
All I know is when the TSA asks me if I'm a terrorist or wants to, I'm like, look, I'm not playing your game, okay? I'm not with Al-Qaeda, the government is, and you're not going to grab my, I'm just tired of it. I don't like living in a police state, and it makes me angry, and it's just such a game, Joseph Farah. I'm tired of playing along with it.
I'm with you. Look, after 9/11, when I heard George W. Bush, announce his plan that what we were supposed to do, the ordinary people, we were supposed to go out and shop and make sure the economy didn't fall apart. And he was going to take care of all the problems with the creation of Homeland Security. I wrote back then, I said, this is the absolute wrong prescription. If you are worried about terrorism in America today, this is what you should do. You should go out and buy guns to protect yourself and your family, okay? If everybody in America was at that state of mind, there isn't anything that terrorists could ever do, or any conventional army invasion. There's nothing that any enemy could do to America if Americans just followed that simple prescription.
Instead, they flip-flopped it, and I'll say Homeland Security is for constitutionalists, libertarians, conservatives, returning veterans, and it's clear that that is what they're going to use it for, and it is the height of authoritarian despotism. Joseph Farah of WorldNet Daily, thank you so much for spending time with us.
Always a pleasure. You're a national treasure, Alex Jones. Don't ever change.
Well, thank you, sir. So are you guys over there as some of the only alternative media out there that will actually defend this country and speak out against the globalists. Guys, I'm going to plug the money bomb here and then go to this special report on the NDAA. We're going to come back with the whistleblower here on air. Amber Lyon, the CNN reporter, that is going to be a big interview. And then we're going to have the Ask Kristi interview and then Larry Pinkney coming up. And then a lot more tonight. Look, if you don't donate at InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com, I think you need your head examined. A lot of folks are. We want to thank you for doing it. If you aren't doing well financially, I don't want you to donate. It's people that have extra money, the fruits of liberty as it fades. If you don't spend money and time and energy getting the truth out, and here's one of the best places, then you're asking for the globalists to overrun you and enslave you. So InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com or 888-253-3139, 888-253-3139. Donate. I said 2 days, double the goal, $1 million. I'll be happy if we raise $500,000. That's what we really need. $1 million would be even better. I'd even, be more secure, hire more people, expand. But to really get these uplinks in and be, really be able to kick some butt in the next 6 months to a year, we need to raise $500,000. Infowars. Moneybomb.com or link through at Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. And the crew is here in there taking your calls and your donations. 888-253-3139. 888-253-3139. And it's time to get off the bench and not just be spectators. Every little bit counts and has a big effect. And history's taking place right now. So we're going to go to break and come back with your... whistleblower from CNN, and then we will take some calls as well for her. Such an amazing person. We didn't get to any calls the first time she was on with us. And by the way, that story when she was on with us ended up going viral. Joe Rogan picked it up, and many others. So we're going to be looking at that with Amber Lyon, CNN whistleblower. Straight ahead, donate, InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com.
When the people fear the government, there is tyranny. When the government fears the people, there is liberty. Thomas Jefferson. Global government despises Infowars.com. Donate now. Long live liberty. Death to the New World Order.
The National Defense Authorization Act empowers the U.S. military to operate on American soil. They can arrest American citizens and cart them off to detention centers anywhere in the world, basically turning the entire homeland into a battlefield and allowing the military to arrest individuals and detain them indefinitely without trial. Now, this violates every aspect of a free society by denying Americans their constitutionally protected right to due process. How do you think the average American is going to respond?
The same way they responded at the Kent State massacre when National Guard troops were used to fire live ammunition on students who were nonviolently protesting the Vietnam War. The American public was outraged.
The military's here to defend us, not to prosecute us and arrest us and throw us in jail. I think it's a sneak attack by Congress and people to, counter the movement on Wall Street.
These people are saying that the passing of the bill, basically it means to them that the Rubicon has been crossed, that this means America will become complete and possibly irreversible totalitarian military state.
Well, then our only hope is some defective armed force members.
I think that's our only chance, is the military needs to enforce our Constitution, and our congressmen are trampling over the rules that were established over 200 years ago. And that's the whole problem. There's too much corruption in the executive branch and in the congressional.
What would you say to active military who might be told to enforce this bill?
Listen, I'm a veteran of the United States Army, 31 uniform, airborne, and I'll tell you what, very simply, we take an oath to protect this country from threats both foreign and domestic.
It's not good, it's not healthy for our democracy, for the American Army to be involved.
For those people who say that, oh, it could never happen here, it could never happen to us, those are called the famous last words. Many times throughout history, situations have happened where governments have turned their military against its citizens. You know what? History repeats itself. If that eventuality does happen, you have to remind yourself that these are your brothers and sisters and neighbors and people you went to school with. And remember what you're truly fighting for. It's for our Constitution, not for these puppets who are actually our servants who have run amok.
Now, Stuart Rhodes, the founder of Oath Keepers, recently appeared on the Infowars Nightly News, and he warned people that we are now at the point where all that will save liberty in America is another American revolution.
But really, you should see this as a declaration of war against the American people. That's how we should see it. We need to stop this right now. If we don't, Alex, I do believe that there will be no recourse except another revolution. Otherwise, we are going to be lost. We will be put in the same position as the Founding Fathers were in 1775.
I want to tell the military and police, the globalists are going to sit offshore and watch you get chewed up in a fight with the American people. It's very important that police and military really make a decision now which side they're going to be on.
The military, you're right. Choose now whom you shall serve. Either you are, I'm talking to the military out there especially, either you are a son of the Republic and you will defend the Bill of Rights and the Constitution, or you are a traitor to your country and you are nothing but a lowly dog, an obedient dog to the powers that be. Choose now whom you shall serve.
There's a lot of constitutionalists out there who are in such an uproar that they're saying that this bill places us in almost exactly the same position that our forefathers were in when they were forced to take up arms in defense of liberty back in 1775.
Well, to those people, I would say it's a culmination of things that have put us in that position, and I would agree that the architects, the great and highly intelligent architects that constructed our infrastructure, the way we do business and the way we do politics and the way we live here in America, they would turn over in their graves and they would be very ashamed of us and how far we've let this go.
Indefinite detention without due process leaves citizens without the legal protection of the Constitution, and it strikes at the very heart of the essence of U.S. law. It is positively shameful that any elected representative would even consider voting for such an assault on so sacred a fundamental value as the right to due process. I'm Darrin McBreen for Infowars Nightly News.
And she will be back with us later again tonight, but she's with us for about 10 minutes right now ahead of Amber Lyon, the CNN whistleblower, coming on with us. Again, I'm Alex Jones, your host. It is the 2012 Live Money Bomb. I want to thank everybody who has donated. We've got the Ask Alex, Kristi Hightower from PlanetInfowars.com in here with us.
Alex, I'm not sure how much time we have, so just let me know.
Okay.
But let's go ahead and get started. The first question comes to you, Alex, from Nano Robot, from a Planet Infowars user. He says, Alex, will you tell us what you know about radioactivity found at Ground Zero and the melted rocks and rock formation also found there?
There have been physicists in England and other places, professors, several have gone public, and they did pick up high levels of radiation. And 5 weeks later, there was, stuff 1,000 degrees above what jet fuel burns. I mean, NASA photos from aircraft. So it was molten. But I don't think anything went on there. I think the government official story is real. I mean, they said they blew up Building 7 on the news, and I heard them say they blew it up, but then they said they didn't blow it up. And then we have all the newscasts where they said they blew it up, and I talked to the cops that heard the countdown, but they didn't blow it up. We should all take vaccines and drink fluoride, and GMO is good for us, and the government cares about us. Kristi, everything's fine.
I loved it. I love that that video clip where they show the building in the background, and
they say it's already fallen.
Building 7's fallen, and it's still perfectly standing.
Yeah, well, they got their script off, but that's okay. They didn't blow it up, though. They're good people. Everything's fine.
Of course. All right. Well, good. Well, moving on. Armed Gentleman, Planet Infowars user, says, with the current establishment version of politics, many kids would likely get really bored and distracted really fast. But if kids were to know about which groups, say Goldman Sachs, etc., fund which candidates, and those candidates' voting records, etc., then maybe they could develop a healthy interest in politics?
I agree. They make it boring on purpose when it's actually very exciting. Sure, it's boring, their milquetoast bought and paid for, but if you know the details of their real agenda and then explain to kids are actually almost like genetically ready to be told the government's bad and only trust the family. Because that's usually how, that's like, families didn't survive if they didn't know that. So it's almost like the Darwinian thing of not that I believe in that overall. The point is that everybody knows you don't trust the man. It's a modern brainwashed convenience to say, hey, I want my fluoride.
Crazy. So you think that kids should, how do you do it with your kids? I mean, I've come in here and been really, really like knowledgeable on certain issues and things. So just how do you educate your kids?
Yeah, I have explained to all my children, history. We've read history books. I've read it to them at night and in the morning and things, and they've learned. History, humans have done the same thing over and over again.
Right, it repeats itself, as the cliche goes, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, well, moving on then, maybe we can get to all 10 questions, which would be rare. Alex, normally it takes us an hour and a half. All right, this next one...
Can I have Amber Lyon's bio, too? I want to point out she's Emmy Award winning repeatedly and stuff. You guys give me Amber Lyon bio, or I can type it in right here. Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, you're great. Amber's awesome. I'm glad you're doing that. Joshua, Planet Infowars user, says, Infowars is victory, resistance is victory, tyranny is just a symptom after all, isn't it? Apathy is the disease, and awareness is the cure. Simply pulling people out of the matrix via the dissemination of information is the key. Alex, people often whine and say, okay, but what do we do to fight the New World Order? Is this not an open admission of failure to grasp the fundamental arguments and concepts of the entire new culture, quote unquote?
Well, apathy is treason. Thank you. Apathy is treason. It has been said over and over again. And I agree with the listener that made that point. But I have found that if people get, hey, this is a malevolent, not benevolent.
Right.
These are bad guys.
Mal being from the Latin word bad, right?
Yes, exactly. This is malware. Yeah. These are not nice people, and your apathy is not going to protect you. People think like, oh, if I'm just apathetic and aren't involved, I'll be left alone. No, the wolves will eat you. I've been around the globalists and their minions, and not that I'm into this, but they're scared of me because they realize I'm reckless and don't care. I mean, I'm done. I'm not going to get down and kiss their hind end, or lick their boots or whatever the analogy is. So... yeah, that's it. I mean, look, a lot of people think I'm trying to scare them, but that's not it. I mean, if I told somebody, hey, your house is on fire, hey, don't try to scare me, and there's flames shooting out, saying, let's get out of it. Let's. I believe I'm going to tell people what's going on, and they're going to do something about it. Right. And maybe I'm blind to that because, if somebody's trying to mug my neighbor or somebody's trying to rob me or somebody's, choking, I'm going to help them. And I've actually done that in my life, and it's not like extraordinary. I see a car flip down the side of the highway, I'm going to pull over and render aid. I mean, it's like, well, if it's an emergency, it's what you do. It's like, I mean.
Well, but this is it's more gradual than a car flipping. Like,
but I mean, more and more people, though, don't help someone when the car flips.
Right.
They just keep driving and say they didn't see it.
Well, I think it's so tricky, though, because the globalists have that gradual, granted, there's...
Well, no, they give us more and more little BS to do, and so we're already so overextended that exactly... I mean, it was a few months ago I saw a car wreck, and I said, man, I'm late. I'm not even going to make it on radio in time because I get ready at home. But I went ahead and started pulling over, but a bunch of other cars stopped, and the car wasn't really, the person was fine, so I gunned it off. But, you know, I mean, I kind of thought, wow, that was almost immoral. You say you're going to stop and help everybody, but the excuse was, I've got to get on the radio and reach millions.
Yeah. Oh,
but I was kind of like doing actuaries in my mind of triaging, but still, if they were hurt, I was going to go help them and just miss the show.
Yeah. Good for you. Thanks, Al.
No, it's not good. It's like, don't.
That is good.
No, but I mean,
act is very good.
But I mean, not peeing in the pool is supposedly good. But I mean, you know, if we all do it, it's going to be terrible.
Oh, right, yeah.
What's that, guys? Pulled upon. And listen, go ahead and get her online, guys, and then we're going to finish these questions up.
Okay.
She's ready? We're going to go to her in a minute. Okay.
You can ask one more question, then we can...
And we'll come back and do it.
Yeah, and we're perfect. So, all right, this last one for now is from Christopher. And hear me out, it's just a little bit long. Given how it is well known that certain states reliably vote one way in a presidential election, example, California is always Democrat, etc., there's a realclearpolitics.com. It's declaring certain states are locked. As you know, if the Libertarian Party can gather 5% or more of the popular vote, they will receive presidential campaign funds in the tens of millions for the 2016 election. Now, if we can hold on long enough, you know, and U.S. isn't into all this chaos, do you think there's a shot? We are 17 days from the election, and I love the Libertarians. I've had the presidential candidate, Gary Johnson, on. But now, most Libertarians would vote Republican. It's all just a vote for Obama. So I say, go ahead and go vote for Obama if you're going to vote for the Libertarians at this point, because they've blocked them, they've stopped them. We need to, you get 55% turnout or more for a presidential election. You get like 8.2 national average locally. Right.
Austin's like 8.6. We need to get involved locally, and then it won't matter what the demagogues off do, because if we say no locally, that's where the real change will be. What about the locked states? What do you say to those? The ones that are like locked in Democrat, do you say go ahead and vote Libertarian? Like, what are your thoughts on that? Yeah, that's a good idea. I mean, if they're already, you know. Sure. I mean, I'm not Republican or Democrat. I mean, obviously, Obama says he's going to take my guns. I'm like, wow. I don't like Romney, but he just, you know, it's okay, fine. I'm not getting in his lap, but I'm going to run to Switzerland, you know. I mean, at a certain point, I mean, this has just got to end. Yeah. I mean, these are a bunch of authoritarians that we've got to deal with. All right. Well, on that note, I guess we'll just get back. But we have more questions, but I know Amber Lyon's coming on here soon. So. And I'm sorry I got behind. I'm the one that asked you to bring some questions for the show, and then you've been sitting out there for 2 hours. I'm still doing work. You're doing a great job at the Twitter, Real Alex Jones, and over on one of the Facebooks. Absolutely. And thank you so much for helping us, Kristi Hightower. There's also the Planet Infowars Twitter, which is at Real PIW. So, and also, if you guys wanted to participate in Money Bomb, hashtag Money Bomb 2012. Absolutely. Thank you, Kristi. And that's what we do here, is that we are a platform for Congress people that are trying to fight tyranny. We are a platform for journalists that are being censored, for people like Chris Hedges and his suit against the NDAA. We are a platform to artists and researchers and people that would never be able to reach all these millions. And we do reach 15 million a week now, whether it's on AM and FM stations, XM, global shortwave, satellite. The nightly news is on in England and some cable systems here in the U.S. That's just them downloading it and airing it. We haven't even launched the satellite uplinks yet. We haven't even launched the file sharing systems with the news systems and the vignettes and all the things we're getting ready to do. We have just gotten to the point, and that's why for 5 years, because listeners recommend it, we've had these money bombs. We've raised $2 million in 5 years with these 24-hour broadcasts. That's why I said, hey, let's just go ahead and do a 48-hour broadcast. And we've raised $216,000. We haven't updated a lot of the orders that have come in that we add into that. But I'll be happy if we raise $500,000 by 11 a.m. tomorrow. And it really will help us in between the sponsorship and the rest of it. We're not like NPR that gets government money and begs for money every day. We do it once a year, and we're here doing it. Okay. Talking about real journalists, I spent like 20 minutes of the hour we had with her last time lauding her, but she really is a hero, and she's been an example to many other journalists to stand up and tell the truth. And there have been more whistleblowers since she went public. Amber Lyon is a 3-time Emmy award-winning journalist and filmmaker obsessed with hackers, human and animal rights, and revolutions. In 07 and 08, she won the Emmy for Best On-Camera Talent Reporter. She grew up in St. Louis, Missouri, and attended the University of Missouri School of Journalism. She's also been awarded the SPJ Heart of America Award, Missouri Broadcasters Association Certificate of Merit, and Edward R. Murrow Award. That's a big one. And Peabody Award. Wow, well, what has she not won? And a Gracie Award for Women in Media and more. For her documentary, I, Revolution, she won the 2012 New York Festival International Television and Film Gold World Medal Award, and Lyon was nominated as a Livingston Award finalist in the documentary. Lyon continues to investigate ongoing cases of excessive use of police force, as she's been shot at doing it in California, against journalists and protesters in the United States and more. AmberLyonLive.com, and she joins us here again. But instead of me just ranting here, I want her to be able to recap, the latest she's seeing in journalistic manipulation, recap what happened with her case, basically leaving CNN, being forced out because she wouldn't follow the orders of foreign governments that were running CNN International, Bahrain, and others. And then I want to open the phones up for people to have a chance to talk to her. In fact, let me give you that number. If you want to join us, it's 877-789-ALEX, 877-789-2539. We're opening the phone system right now. We'll take 5 or 6 calls for Amber Lyon. Questions directly to her, 877-789-ALEX. And Amber, it is great to have you here on air with us. And I'm just so excited to see your story getting out there all over the place of just how manipulated CNN really is.
Yeah, Alex, I really appreciate you having me on and having the gumption to discuss this story, because it's yet another one that's kind of been censored by the mainstream because other mainstream outlets are participating in similar behaviors. And really going on your show made a tremendous difference in being able to let people know that CNN has been what I consider to be defrauding viewers, creating these infomercials for dictators, this paid content that they're airing on CNN International that's actually being paid for by governments that, as journalists, we're supposed to be watchdogging.
Exactly. CNN's paid for by Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, China, you name it. This show's paid for by our little sponsors and people that donate to the once-a-year Infowars Money Bomb. And I know you're also building your own media organization, which is really exciting. That's what's going to defeat this dinosaur media and create the alternative. Talk about a little bit of what you're doing currently, and then let's recap your story.
Yeah, I'm setting up a news and information aggregation and original content website. It's called muckraker.com, and it goes back. We're trying to reinvigorate the muckrakers of the 1920s, the Nellie Blys, the journalists that did a lot of undercover reporting, and really kind of bring back that hardcore investigative journalism that really hasn't been as present as it was since the 1920s after corporations came in and kind of squashed it. So we felt Muckraker was a great name because some of the best journalists in history were muckrakers. And we're really hoping to launch this site as a force for investigative journalism, also for whistleblowers who are brave enough to come forward.
Again, a lot of listeners have seen your story in the news, but I mean, without me trying to break down the story first, recap exactly in a nutshell what happened to you and what you witnessed. I mean, you're one of the most important whistleblowers that come along in a long time because of just how wide-reaching and really bombshell this CNN activity is.
Yeah, I mean, as an investigative journalist, I began to notice after working for the mainstream that the elephant in the room was the behavior of these corporations, not these individual investigations that I was doing. And I realized that the propaganda being fed to the public by the mainstream was just as detrimental as any other investigation I was working on. I also noticed that some of my coverage from Bahrain was being red taped. It was very difficult to get coverage on air, whereas Syria and Iran it was very easy to cover those countries. And I noticed this systematic cover-up of the behavior of a U.S. ally country, and I felt that that the public needed to know that a lot of people in the public have already come forward and felt that these organizations are screening the news, and I wanted to make sure that people knew that they were right in their beliefs.
And I mean, the significance of this, whenever we have just massive information like this right out there in the open, and we have all the news of censorship in the White House saying what to do with the New York Times, and reporters at press conferences giving their questions beforehand. I mean, this is just absolutely rigged. Since when is journalism just repeating and regurgitating whatever press release you're handed?
I know, Alex, you're exactly right. That's what we're hoping to kind of lead the way and redefine journalism with muckraker.com, because we feel that we've lost our way in this country as journalists. We're supposed to be watchdogs on the government. We're supposed to be ambushing our senators and congressmen constantly to get to the truth. And instead, the U.S. government is spoon-feeding the mainstream media stories and sound bites that they're then publishing as fact. A prime example is the situation with the attack on the U.S. Embassy in Libya. The mainstream media took whatever the State Department told them and published that as fact without doing an independent investigation, as we're supposed to do as journalists. And it came back to bite them, because as we found out now, that the situation surrounding that attack and the way the State Department was framing it wasn't true. And these mainstream media outlets are quick to blame the State Department for not having the facts right. But really, I feel like they should be blamed, because they're the ones who are supposed to be watchdogging the government and these corporations. And Alex, that's part of the reason why we have so much corruption in this country right now, is because we really are lacking in true hardcore journalists and journalism.
Well, I agree with you, and we've also got all these corporations with their own people in as the regulators. I mean, it's not getting better, it's getting worse. Where do you see this country and this world going if truth can be sold out to the highest bidder?
I'm really scared for the direction of this country, just based on my last 10 years as an investigative reporter and seeing how much corruption has been able to succeed because there is no journalism to watchdog these companies and really expose it. Another thing that scares me, Alex, is, you see the NDAA 2013 is now going to legalize propaganda. It's going to allow, for the first time in decades, it's going to allow the U.S. government to directly spoon-feed propaganda to the American public and bypass the mainstream media. And that is, it's already been approved unanimously almost in the House, and now it's waiting for a vote on the Senate, but odds are it's going to pass. And now the U.S. government is going to be able to create sock puppet accounts on social media, magazines, TV shows, and propaganda to feed it directly to the American public. And that just is, as someone who's seen all these campaigns of disinformation, to me, this is the most worrisome thing for me to happen in the United States in years.
And we're showing viewers right now that are watching at prisonplanet.tv and InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com how the NDAA directly threatens average Americans and how you can take action now. And now we've learned that they've been putting people on no-fly lists that have been criticizing this. They've been putting members of Congress on it. They've been putting preppers on it. The system really wants to just set the precedent to do this. They're mad that there's court battles over this. They want to just disappear us. Take him away like ancient kings would do. And, of course, I love the campaign you're doing, wearing the tape over your mouth. I mean, all journalists, whether they're left, right, center, should just immediately be talking about this. But instead, you're not supposed to talk about it. I guess you're just supposed to take your paycheck and sell everything out.
Well, and every journalist should be talking about it, Alex, because the problem with the NDAA and the indefinite detention clause is that as journalists, we can start being disappeared because we don't give up our sources. That's the #1 rule in journalism. So say that all of a sudden the U.S. government decides that an occupier is a terrorist, and they whistle-blew and gave you information that you need for a story, and they ask you to reveal the identity of that source, and you refuse to reveal that identity. As a journalist, they can then indefinitely detain you and accuse you of aiding terrorists by not revealing that source. So this is very dangerous. It can have a chilling effect on our already poor situation of investigative journalism in the United States, and I don't know why more journalists aren't speaking out about this. It's definitely been silenced in the mainstream.
Well, here's an Infowars.com article we'll put up on screen for viewers. A man listed as terrorist over traffic violation, and we have a link to the ACLU talking about it. Activists targeted in order to prevent him organizing DNC protest. And guess who went and argued in the court after he was grabbed that he not be released? And the ACLU has links to that. The Associated Press did report on it, but it didn't get any attention. And that was that, well, he's a low-level terrorist. I'm an activist, not a terrorist, North Carolina man says. And they arrested a bunch of people and said, again, the Army, via Department of Defense, went to the court and said, we have copies of it, don't let him out, he's a terrorist, because he wanted to protest. And they used a manual they'd been given by Homeland Security. I mean, what if Homeland Security made a manual saying, you know, being a mother is terrorist, or being a Christian is terrorist, or being a Muslim is terrorist? I mean, I've seen the former CIA director, Woolsey, when he was here in Austin a few years ago, say, put all the Muslims in camps. I mean, you know, this idea that you can just do whatever you want, and they just do it out in the open, and the public's so ignorant. I mean, I'm ranting about this. It's just that I sent Rob Dew, who actually won a lawsuit over this, and some of my other crew, like 3 years ago, to the G20 in Pennsylvania. They just won the lawsuit this year. And they said, yeah, the Army's on the streets. The Army says, go talk to our public information officer. He's right down there, down the street. So they pull up where they're supposed to go. They ask for the guy. And the military calls the police and says they're terrorists. And I've got to get on the phone when the police call me. And they go, well, we're going to arrest them as terrorists. They're planning to blow up the troops. And we had full video that we later put in my film, Police State 4, Rise of FEMA, with just my crew calmly pulling up, being polite, videotaping. And to them, it was just, we'll call you terrorist. And then that dehumanizes you when we put you in jail. It's like a game. It's like, you know, we're going to put you in a forced labor camp because we say you're a terrorist. I mean, it's so bizarre that it's like a joke. It's almost funny, but it's not. And then, of course, they arrested Rob Dew. But go ahead.
Oh, he was arrested?
Yeah, he was arrested for filming, and then he sued him over it and won. But the point is that this is terrorism in America.
And who is the terrorist anymore, Alex?
Well, they said he was a terrorist, yeah.
Yeah, I think the word terrorist should, I mean, everyone should just laugh when they hear it, because that's the way the U.S. government has treated it. And it has become the word terrorist has been used to really frame people who are enemies of the United States, regardless of whether it's an occupier or someone who really is a serious threat. And it's been abused so many times, the definition by the U.S. government, that I don't feel we can trust who the government says our enemies are and who terrorists are. And that's what Chris Hedges says, that the NDAA terrorizes us and is a terrorist, because the definition of terrorist is so broad in the NDAA, like you were saying, Alex, that really the government can just point their finger and say anyone's a terrorist and then disappear them. And that is a legitimate fear amongst activists, the more vocal activists.
Well, sure, they want that chilling effect. I mean, I'm sure you saw the footage in St. Louis where they would have guys in uniforms grab protesters and throw them in cars. Have you seen that snatch and grab footage?
No, I haven't seen that.
Guys, type in real quick, just snatch and grab at G20 Pittsburgh. Yeah, but I mean, again, Dew on the video is like, what do you mean we're terrorists? We're just here to, they said come talk to you. And it's like a joke for the military and the cops. Like if they just call you that, it suddenly makes you that. I mean, it is absurdist.
Yeah, and that's what the NDAA does, essentially, is it gives the government the power to crush dissent. In the end, that's really what it is doing, and it's also crushing journalism. And now, so the problem with the NDAA is, as you know, Alex, is every year it's reapproved and adjusted. And it's also attached to the salaries of our servicemen and women. So that little nugget makes it very difficult for a president to veto it, because then they blame the president that our service members aren't getting paid. Well, this year the NDAA is only getting worse, because now there are sections in it that are actually making it U.S. policy to go to war with Iran. In addition to that, they're allowing the U.S. government to directly feed the public war propaganda so that this war-weary public will approve of war.
Oh, yeah, they did that last year. They legalized domestic psyops. Explain what that means to people.
That's pretty much mind games and propaganda that will allow the government to get you to approve of things you may not have approved of in the past if you had the full amount of information. What's scary about it is they have unlimited resources. I mean, the average small media independent startup maybe has a budget of $1 million. Well, you can imagine if they're able to start media outlets as well and spoon feed this propaganda and these psyops and mind games to the public, Alex. I mean, how is the independent media going to be able to compete?
Absolutely. It's incredible. I want to go to some phone calls, but I've been asking the questions here. Amber Lyon, award-winning former CNN journalist who basically left. They forced her out, but, you know, if you missed the last interview, they threatened her and stuff. She had a chance to, you know, cry uncle and go along with them, but she didn't. Very honorable. In a world of universal deceit, telling the truth is a revolutionary act. George Orwell, a.k.a. Eric Blair, said that. But before we go to calls in the 30, 40 minutes we have left with you, other points you'd like to make, other issues you'd like to cover, things you'd like to say about your case. I mean, I know you were saying you were getting emails and calls from people at CNN that most of them agree with you. That's very heartening that even if they're afraid to lose their jobs in this depression, that they at least did say, hey, we know you're right.
Yeah, and that was very refreshing. And I had seen that as I was an employee there. I had seen so many of my colleagues that were upset by CNN's behavior, but they just didn't. Were tied down to families or retirement plans or fear for their own safety. You know, Time Warner is a powerful enemy that has a very strong reach. A lot of people were scared as a journalist that if you go against Time Warner that owns Time Magazine, HBO, TBS, CNN, that you would never get a job in journalism again. For me, the censorship and what I was seeing was so horrific that it didn't matter to me. I almost felt like I'd rather not work in this field than continue to allow this to happen. So I've only had a tremendous amount of support from them. Also, a lot of support from people who knew this was going on, but just didn't have that validation. They didn't have someone saying, you're right, you're not a conspiracy theorist. This is really—
That's a good point. They say nothing bad's going on, so even when you know it's going on, that happens to me. Even when I know I'm right, later when it comes out, I go, oh, good, I wasn't crazy. Because it's like reality is so nuts.
It is. I know. Sometimes I find that, and I agree with you, Alex. Sometimes you find stories and discoveries about the behavior of the U.S. government that it's almost so unbelievable. It's very difficult to grasp the reality, but I think that we all need to have the courage to grasp the reality, because until you have that information and you know what's going on, you can't work to change it.
Again, I want to go to phone calls, and I'm putting you on the spot here. I'm not asking you for a plug for our money raising to do things, but I know that so many times stories that aren't really breaking big, we're able to catapult them. Your story was already pretty big, but and this is a cold question. I mean, I don't know what your answer is going to be, so I'm just a shot in the dark. But did you get a pretty good response after you came on the show?
A tremendous response, Alex. A tremendous amount of support and response, and I really appreciate it. Because as I'm now realizing through submersion journalism, that whistleblowing is not easy, and you really fear that you're going to be abandoned, and somehow people aren't really going to get your message, and you risk so much, and people aren't going to get the message. And my point is to let people know that, okay, this network is producing infomercials for dictators, and you should take what you see as, with a grain of salt. And your viewers and listeners, I got hundreds of emails and a lot of support, and a lot of people who were just happy to be able to know what's going on, because they told me they had suspected this was going on all along, and people had been calling them conspiracy theorists. And
sure, it's all validating, and then Joe Rogan called me and said, "Hey, that was a great interview. We're getting her on," and then that's on XM, and then that chain reactions, and then other people, and now you're talking to people, folks that normally aren't even political. I mean, it's just amazing. My point to viewers is the reason people should spread the word with email, Facebook, Twitter, donations, whatever, is that, hey, I'm not happy just reaching 15 million a week. I mean, we have got a real potential here. If everybody will just spread the word to reach 30 million a week or even more, and someday we may not have this platform. We need to use this now, and that's why it's important for people to spread the word about this 48-hour transmission right now, to send people to the free video feed at InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com, for people to donate, for people to call. I want to thank those that have donated and have supported us because it's so important. Let's go to some phone calls. Amber, let's talk to Lance.
All right.
Lance in Texas. You're on the air with Amber Lyon. Go ahead.
Yes, if you can't hear me now, I'm on speakerphone, but my question and my interest is in free energy. And you may not think this relates to the dying dinosaur media, but, you know, EE is the parent company of NBC. Well,
no, sure. They're suppressing all sorts of real alternative energy. And do you have a question for our guest?
Yes, I do. I'm saying if the free energy motors would ever get out into the mainstream, would it end the New World Order's grip? Yeah,
that's a great question. Thanks for the call. Amber, I mean, I saw a video on YouTube of you being shot at with rubber bullets covering the riots and stuff. I mean, that's another issue I want to ask about. But separately, I'm just kind of having all these thoughts right here because it's not live unscripted. But what is your take on alternative energy and reports of its suppression?
Well, I do think that it isn't being accurately covered in the media, and I feel like that's why corporations have such a tight control on the mainstream media, because they know once these messages reach the mainstream that becomes dangerous, because then that can compete with their censorship. So obviously these stories, I mean, you're not hearing about these stories all the time, and they are some fascinating, it's fascinating information, especially journalistically. So if you're not hearing about something that you think is important, odds are it's being screened and kept away from the eyes of the majority of Americans.
And I mean, that's the thing. So many people think, oh, well, it's all corrupt, just give in to it. When you do that, it's a bottomless pit. There's no end. And when good people stand down, it gives the very worst people control of the entire paradigm. Thanks, Lance. Sabian in Pennsylvania, you're on the air with Amber Lyon. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's Sabian. Alex, thanks for taking my call. Keep fighting the good fight. Amber, obviously you have a heart. You're not afraid to show it, and we're all on your side for that. I've been posting multiple posts on Facebook and talking to people to wake everyone up, doing what I can. I'm noticing there are a great amount of people out there that want to take our country back. My question is, Amber and Alex, what can we do to fight back?
That's a great question. Amber, what do we do to fight back? I mean, you're an award-winning journalist. You've won Edward R. Murrow's, Emmys, you name it. I mean, you've been successful. You break big stories. I mean, you've got that, that spark of justice. What do you recommend we do? I mean, I say get cameras, get out, start reporting, put it on YouTube, start a local newsletter. None of us are perfect. Just start fighting.
Yeah, like everyone says that the revolution won't be televised. What I think everyone can do is really make sure that people get this information. I've been so thrilled, Alex, by your viewers and your fans, because when I've shared stories now on Facebook, they've told me, well, I tried to talk with my mom about that or my grandmother about that and let her really know that this was happening. And to me, that information, like I said, is power. You can't make change unless you know what's going on. I also think that protest is a legitimate form to make change here in the U.S., and that's why I'm working now on a book to highlight the benefits of protest. I think the media, once again, surprise, surprise, the mainstream media has really painted protesting as this awful thing with these just a bunch of hippies. And
evil Americans getting together and organizing. It's so 1776.
Exactly. And you look at protest is the only way we've had change in this country ever. I mean, that it takes the American people to get out to the streets and voice their concerns and really show the government or certain corporations that they're not happy. Look at the civil rights movement.
When is your book coming out? Because I want to read it and I want to carry it.
Wonderful. Thank you, Alex. I see that you're very supportive. I appreciate that. It's a photographic essay of protest across the U.S., so it should be out in December, and it really is highlighting just the various protests that have succeeded. I mean, we have groups of people here in LA right now. I'm about to leave to go photograph one. They're hosting foreclosure protests, and they're taking direct action, and they're actually building forts in front of their homes that are about to be foreclosed. Forts of chairs and couches, and bringing in boards, and creating a wall of people between the front yard and the house. And they're winning. I mean, these banks aren't coming in and taking the homes away.
Exactly. Resistance is victory. Beautiful. Sabian, does that answer your question?
I've seen a lot of people in Occupy and whatnot that did try and do that, and they ended up getting gassed and beaten and whatnot. I mean, it's crazy, you know.
Yeah,
So,
well, I mean, look, fighting for liberty isn't going to be easy. And Occupy got infiltrated by the Democrats when they couldn't take it over. They went ahead and had a coordinated Homeland Security raid in, 30-plus cities. Again, since when do the feds coordinate ordering local police to arrest all the occupiers? I mean, again, that's totally out of the feds' jurisdiction.
And the problem with Occupy, too, is that Occupy didn't have, it doesn't have enough, not enough people are brave enough to go out and protest with these various, at these various events. If there were thousands and thousands of people at these events versus a couple hundred, then the protesters would have more power and wouldn't be as easily influenced and crushed by law enforcement and the feds.
Well, look, I appreciate your call, sir. I mean, Amber,
thank you.
I probably spent like 10 minutes just saying what a hero you were, because it's true. And, the fact is, sure, you say you're not a hero. Basic human compassion and knowing there were slaughters you witnessed in foreign countries that they ordered people to cover up, you had a responsibility to talk about that. But nowadays, when so many people just rationalize or whatever, what you did, that type of action, is what is going to change the world. And they're scared of people like you that could be an example to others, because once other people within the system, that's what the system's really afraid of. Yeah. That's why they're afraid of a protest, because others might join it, like Ceausescu in Romania or the fall of the Berlin Wall. They send the military in. I've interviewed some of those officers. They ordered to go kill people, and they finally said, we're done. It's just that moral decision. That's why they want to go to drones and robots and autonomous systems who aren't even human-controlled, because they want to remove us from the decision-making equation. We have power, and we have to realize we have that power.
And if people don't act soon, at least at the least to contact your senators about NDAA 2013 to get rid of the propaganda and the U.S. policy leading us into war with Iran and the indefinite detention. I mean, at the very least, I feel like everyone in this country has a duty to try to get this taken out of the latest version of the NDAA, or we're gonna head fast down that road that you're talking about, Alex, where people are terrified just to walk out of their door and protest, or even in their own homes they become scared to.
No, I agree. We're talking to a former CNN reporter who basically quit, was forced out over not going along with their cover-ups of massacres in different Middle Eastern countries. She's on with us right now, and muckraker.com is her website. How did you get such an incredible domain name? I mean, that's about as good as it gets.
I don't know. I don't know how it happened. I've always been a huge fan, even since I was 12, of Nellie Bly. She's a journalist who had the gumption to check herself into a mental institution to prove that they were abusing patients, and witnessed it firsthand. And I love that style of journalism. And so I've always had that in the back of my head, that I wanted to use that name because it's such a powerful name, and it was such a powerful time for us in the U.S. journalistically. And I got lucky. The guy who sold it to me sold Politico their name as well, and he's been holding on to the name for almost a decade. And he felt it was finally time to give it up, and he felt that I was the individual he wanted to give it to. So.
Amazing. I was about to say, I mean, I've got to say, that's probably like $1 million name, but I imagine he gave you a big discount.
Yeah, he did. He did. He gave me a tremendous discount and a blessing because...
But see, that's what it's all about. It's about, I guarantee he could have sold that for more money. That was a major act of rebellion against tyranny to sell you that, I would guess, for a low price. Because, I mean, it's like, wow, there's no future if we don't say no now. And it's just those little things that are actually big things that add up because... used to journalists would go to a war zone to see what was happening by themselves. They would climb over a wall into a third world country or a dictatorship. They would check themselves into a mental institution where they were lobotomizing people. I mean, it was gutsy. It was real. It was, I mean, journalists are like the guardian angels, and now they're gone. But, hey, we found one in Amber Lyon, and we've found one in other people, and it's just precious. And I think people should realize this information is the essence of freedom. I mean, it's so beautiful. It's so special. And it's electrifying, too, because it's exciting to break big stories. It's exciting to put yourself in harm's way. Don't feel sorry for us that have broken a lot of big stories. When I've climbed into Bohemian Grove or gone into a military base or things I've done. Let me tell you, folks, that's really living right there. What can you say before we go back to calls about that electricity of journalism?
Yeah, I mean, journalists, like, you have the ability to stand back and really go in and fight corruption, like so many don't, because you're not a part of that organization. And if you have a tremendous platform like you do, Alex, you can really take an expose and really give it to the public so that change can happen. And that, to me, is the most rewarding thing as a journalist, when you're able to expose some type of corruption and then you see direct change happen because of that expose. And that's the true essence of being a journalist. And what we're seeing on TV now, Alex, those are celebralists. The majority of hardcore journalists have had to or have been forced out of the mainstream, and they're out there now floating around, and they need homes like in your institution as well as what I'm starting, because there are some fabulous journalists out there. They just need a platform right now.
They certainly do. I remember, I don't know, 6 months ago, we had a journalist who'd written for the local papers and stuff, but he quit because they wouldn't let him publish it. He caught the cops basically drugging the local occupiers so they could demonize them later and offer them drugs to set people up. And at first, the media said it wasn't true, but then later had to admit they were taking them to the police station and giving them cocaine, heroin, you name it. And at first, people are like, the cops are giving people drugs, but then it came out that it was even a federal program. It's just, all you've got to do is go, anybody can go and objectively report on what they're seeing happen. And I mean, I'm totally self-trained. I found out there were programs, taking old people's property, and I went and exposed it, and it made national news 17 years ago. It's not hard. There is so much corruption out there. Just go out there and start talking about it.
Alex, I was just thinking that, because we used to think as journalists, we need to go overseas to highlight this poor corruption in this country and these poor people who are being oppressed. And now, as journalists, even around the world, people are being attracted to the United States investigative journalists like a magnet, because there's so much corruption and there's so much oppression going on right now. And we need journalists. And I had a lot of your fans write me, Alex, and say, I've always wanted to be a journalist. How do I start? Well, that's exactly like what you said, Alex. And when they see corruption, blog about it, or send story tips into reputable sites. And anyone can be a journalist.
It's real easy. Go ask your mayor in the 3-minute communication, do you take money from this group? They'll lie and say they don't. You go to public records and show the video and then show the document, and it will end up getting picked up, because so many mainline journalists are scared and lazy. But if it's all been done for them, it'll end up in the paper.
Exactly. And then there you go. You've been a journalist. I always say, and this is what I'm looking for in people that I'm hiring, is that it takes more heart and passion than it does training. And I think that if you have the passion to want to expose truth and better this country, and more power to you. Anyone can be a journalist. There's no specific training. Well,
you talked about muckrakers, 70, 80, 90 years ago. Who did the mafia fear? They feared the journalist. They didn't fear the cops. The journalist is who they would run like roaches from, because they knew that journalist was going to expose them. So the mafia went and bought the journalist.
Exactly, and they crushed the muckraker movement. It was so sad. I mean, there were so many successes out of that. Exposures of lynchings in the South. Upton St. Clair exposed dirty meat packing plants by going in undercover as an employee.
The Jungle.
The Jungle, yeah, it was fascinating. I recommend for anyone, especially anyone who wants to get inspired, read Hunter S. Thompson, read Upton St. Clair. And when you see his style, you can understand why corporations were terrified of journalists, because they were catching all of these corporations and the government constantly with their pants down.
Absolutely. Well, that's so exciting. Ron in Clearwater, Florida, then TJ, Chris, Brandon, and a few others. You're on the air, Ron. Go ahead.
Hi, Alex. Hi, Amber. How are you today?
Good.
Doing wonderful.
Hey, I have a question for Amber, and I have a statement for Alex. Amber, when you were, do you still have Middle East contacts or people in the business who keep track of what's going on over there?
Yeah, I do. I have a lot of the country in particular that I focus on is Bahrain, and I have a lot of contacts on the ground there, and who keep me updated constantly about what's going on. Of course, you can bet that when I launch my news site, we'll be covering the real story about what's happening in these countries through our genuine truth-telling contacts on the ground.
Have you heard of any kind of troop buildups in Syria, Russian troops and Chinese troops?
I haven't been covering Syria closely. I've been, because there's so much media attention on Syria, I've been focusing on filling the vacuum with Bahrain coverage. So I wouldn't know.
Yeah, we know there's a Russian troop buildup. I don't know about Chinese. Caller, do you have any information on that?
Well, I just been picking up a lot of buzz on the net, and I just wanted to make one statement to you, Alex. You had Roseanne Barr on about 6 months ago, and she said that a lot of people in Hollywood listen to you all the time, and I think it's time for them to step up with your money bump.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I don't brag because it doesn't even matter to me anymore. It's kind of crazy. It's like ego is actually kind of a good propulsion system. It's really scary not to really have it anymore, because I guess once you realize you've gone to all these parties and been with these people, it means nothing. There's not like some grass is greener world you break into. I like people that tell the truth and are cool, whether they're famous or not. You know, that's the really neat thing. But I know all these big Hollywood people who make, you know, $1 million bets and stuff, and have like 5 houses, and even though they care about what's going on average, they don't give a plug nickel to anything political. And it's just kind of its own la-la land out there, but I appreciate your call. Yeah, no, I just, basically, I've had hundreds, let's not exaggerate, hundreds of celebrities. If I said hundreds of movie stars call me, it wouldn't be true. 50 movie stars, whatever, some of the biggest. I mean, you name them, most of them, I can say, wow, I met that person. Wow, they called me. Yeah, that person. But the thing is, they're always like, we want to tell you we like you, but we're afraid to talk and speak out. Well, then it's because you're afraid we're going to lose everything. But you know what? My listeners are more excited to hear a regular person on the air than even a celebrity. And so that's my message to the celebrities. If you're thinking the whole world's waiting for you to lead them, think again. You know, go ahead and just crouch down and lick the hand that feeds you. But I appreciate your call. Amber, any comments on that?
Yeah, I do agree. I actually moved out to Los Angeles because I found more support here journalistically than on the East Coast near, you know, Wall Street. Surprise, surprise. A lot of the investors there aren't too keen on wanting to invest in investigative journalism. But I found a lot of support out here. But I do agree, there's still that line they're scared to cross because they're scared of ticking off someone in their audience or ticking off a major studio like maybe Warner Brothers. But that's a problem. When you try to please everyone, you please no one. And in the end, we're at such a crucial time in this country that I think people who have a big reach and know the truth have a duty, like the Joe Rogans, the unlikely heroes of what's going on now, you know, who see that there's a deficit in discussing the truth, and they actually have the courage to come forward and talk about it because they have an audience that they can reach with that truth.
Joe has a huge audience. He has a lot of courage. Thank you, Ron. Let's talk to TJ in Phoenix, Arizona. You're on the air.
Hello. I want to say thank you and blessings to both of you. I was woken up about 2.5 years ago working for a fundraising organization, interestingly enough, raising funds for the Republican National Committee. And this gentleman said, I have some information for you. And he sent me some emails, and it was one of the first things I watched was the Obama deception. So thank you for that, Alex. I want to say thank you, Amber, for the work that you're doing to be so brave and to not sell to the globalists. And so I have a question to ask you, Amber, and also just a comment, Alex. The question I want to ask you is, what would you say was the most influential experience that you had that really shook you up to make you kind of be a whistleblower? How did that happen?
When I woke up, like you said, waking up, it really is true. You all of a sudden wake up one day and realize what's going on. And then I started to see that the public is being fed propaganda for a war with Iran, which I consider to be Iraq #2. And that's when I felt an ultimate duty. I mean, we can't have Iraq #2. We've seen what happened. And I felt a duty to come forward and let people know, wait a minute, you know, there are stories that could go against this war that are being screened, and the media isn't telling you 100% the truth. And I felt a duty to come forward, you know, and just try to enlighten as many people as possible before a potential conflict starts.
Absolutely. And my comment's kind of funny you answered that way, because my comment for you, Alex, is I'm actually Jewish, but I'm a Messianic Jew. I believe that Jesus is the Messiah. And, you know, I've heard a lot of, propaganda from my, Jewish, people that I know. And what I've learned is that a lot of people, even on my side, are blind over really what's happening. And one thing I appreciate you about, Alex, is that the idea about the rapture. I believe that there is a rapture, but the rapture occurs when actually the Messiah, Jesus, returns again. I don't believe it's anything where we're all going to escape.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you believe the Bible or the New Testament, I mean, it says clearly it's after the devil's tied up and thrown in the pit. But I just see the rapture as this giant cop-out to everybody stand down because Jesus is going to save us, and it's not even there in the Bible. But without getting into religion from a religious perspective, just from an anthropology perspective or a psychology perspective, when you look at it, I mean, look, everybody's just people, whether they're black, German, Jewish, whatever it is. The average Jewish person thinks they're under attack. They are under attack because the globalists are funding both sides. They hear Iran saying they're going to blow them up, so they go to their government and say, okay, take my liberties to defend this. All these governments are manipulating us with the same stuff. We're all just people, and if we get past all the rhetoric and the divide and conquer, there are a bunch of criminal interests that know how to play dirty tricks to get us to give us, to get us to give our power over to them. And let me get Amber's take on that. Thank you for the call.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that people are being taken advantage of, and that's another reason I came forward too, is because I grew up in the Midwest. I see my family there being fed this propaganda and being taken advantage of, not only by the media but by the U.S. government and all of these corporations who are using their hard-earned money to go and fund unnecessary wars, and it's not right. And I feel like people are just being taken advantage of right now, and I'm hoping that information can be power, and that can empower the people to take back this country.
Let's go ahead and talk to Chris, another caller from Clearwater, Florida, or is that the same Chris from Clearwater, Florida? That number getting a new call, another call from Clearwater. Chris, you're on the air.
Alex and Amber, thank you. You are on the front lines of the info war. And I wanted to offer a solution to prevent our wealth from being robbed from behind our front lines, where the international banksters are reaching straight into our pocketbook and shipping it offshore. So I would ask you if you would please publicize or start or participate in any existing local community currencies, because they cannot be spent at big box stores. The wealth stays local, and because the elite control all the valuable resources, they can manipulate world markets except for the one asset that's universal to everyone, and that's time. Now, we have the Ithaca Hour that was established in 1991. That's the best modern example of a pioneer, but we have them springing up again all across the country, just like the last Great Depression. There were over 3,000, and here we have Clearwater Hours begun just a month and a half ago. We have 26 participating businesses, and really, we don't need to persuade a business how terrible and diabolical our rulers are, the puppets are. We don't need to attack the puppets or wait for the next election or have demonstrations. It's easier to show how we can have prosperity without having to show how to, while avoiding all the divisiveness.
No, I hear you. Do you have a question for our guest?
Well, I would ask you if you've heard about, or if you haven't, please investigate and publicize more community usury-free local currencies.
No, I hear you. Listen, we can all start bartering. That's why they're attacking lemonade stands, Amish, people selling produce. The system does not want us engaging our own little economies. Amber?
Yeah, on that line of kind of uniting people by their community, you're really seeing that even journalistically. You're seeing the best journalism is becoming the local journalism, because they don't have the national corporations and power grid doesn't have a stronghold on these local outlets. So you're even seeing the local news really rise up as becoming more of the heroes and truth tellers journalistically. And I find people who agree with you feel that you're more united now by your community, and communities need to start building up connections and power for the future as well.
Let's move quick now with 4 more calls, and we'll let our amazing guests go. Brandon in Boston, Jim, Josh, and Ken. It's all the time we have. Brandon in Boston, you're on the air.
Hey, Alex.
Hey, buddy.
Amber.
Hi.
Thank you so much for all the work you're doing, and I just want to say how refreshing it is to hear somebody with passion in their voice rather than some kind of lifeless journalist. That you're taught to be objective and everything, and that kind of just sucks the soul out of you. And
well, that's code word for repeat what you're handed in a press release.
Yeah.
So, but exactly, you're handed the press release and you're just told what to do. You have no more say than an employee does in a corporation. And I just want to thank you so much for kind of deprogramming out of that. But my question is, a couple of them is, one, have you received any support from kind of renegade journalists like Jeremy Scahill, who wrote Blackwater? I know he's out in L.A. doing great work. And I also wanted to know, what's your next move? I know there's a book coming out, or where can we follow you, where can we find you, and follow your stuff and add to this emerging grassroots movement?
Yeah, kind of tell us, because people are interested. I mean, I'm interested, Amber. I mean, I know there's so much going on, but I mean, you got the book coming out. You're trying to organize other muckrakers. Sure, you're doing some investigations. You can't tell us about those. Don't want to give the enemy heads up, but tell us what you're doing.
Well, that's what I've been doing, is trying to find an outlet for the Jeremy Scahills and the real hardcore muckrakers that you have out there, to kind of collect all of their work into one site where people can go as well to get our focus is going to be just really hardcore investigations, like the types that Jeremy Scahill do. So that's what I'm focusing on. I'm building this outlet and investigations that really have a lot to do with the U.S. People write me time and time again and say, well, I have a great news source I can go to find out what's happening in the UK, and a source that's critical of the Middle East, but there are very few that are running right now that are critical of the U.S. So that's what we're trying to create as well. And, now I'm focusing also on ways to, make sure I stay safe. That's been a concern. And then also working on finishing this book that really highlights protest in the U.S. and really highlights the art of protest and creating change in the history of the United States, because that was something that was just squashed by the mainstream media. And I saw that happen, when Aaron Burnett went out the first day of Occupy Wall Street and just demonized the protesters. And they didn't deserve that. And, everyone deserves to have their story told, and told truthfully. And so I'm just hoping this book is my way to give back as a journalist and tell the true story of the last year of protests in the U.S. So there's a lot going on.
Sure. I mean, the system wants us all just watching TV all day, never even being out riding bikes or whatever. They want us just like zombies, only getting their message, and it doesn't fit into it if people get outside the box and go out and start protesting, or go out and start a blog or an access show or a local radio show. I mean, folks, people are hungry for alternative news. And I hear so many of the other alternative news organizations and stuff, they never talk about that. It's like they've got their little thing, and they're in competition with the other journalists. And, that's a big problem, too. We're not in competition, ladies and gentlemen. We're in a pitched battle against a private corporate takeover, and everything is on the table. We have got to go all in against these people, and the idea of getting citizens involved in just free speech, in just protest or journalism or whatever it is. I mean, so many times it's a child in England with the horrible school lunches they're being given who starts taking photos. Then millions see it. Then the school says you can't take photos. Then it's a bigger controversy. Then it's shut down. Or kids in San Antonio don't want to wear RFID around their necks, and the school says we're going to punish you, so that blows up. It's always little people. They tell you you're little and powerless because it's the opposite. It's so much of the real news is generated by people that aren't even trained journalists. They're just videoing what happened. Take Spain. They want to ban videotaping police. Amber, let me ask you about this. Illinois wants to give people life in prison. Remember that case for videotaping? There's no perception of privacy. You know that. I mean, that shows how scared the system is just of people putting out real reality and not their filtered infomercials for dictators.
Exactly, and they're terrified of the little guy standing up, because once the mainstream starts protesting and starts, getting off the couch and heading out and doing exciting things like protest and collecting information and spreading the truth, then they're screwed. There's no way they can compete against 300 million people in the United States who say that they want change and they want their country back. And that's what I saw. That's what I saw right away. I mean, the writing's on the wall. That's why right away the mainstream media came out and crushed the protests and crushed them strongly. And, because
the mainstream media is like, we're the only ones that can speak, not you.
Exactly. And thank goodness for cell phones. And now anyone can become a journalist and put a photo up or a video and get more views than CNN gets. And that is very scary to them. And that's, Alex, that's why the NDAA 2013 scares me even more, because the government has so taken such a stronghold of our mainstream media that now they've lost so many viewers that they don't have the power to reach such an audience. So now instead they're going to pass this NDAA 2013 and allow them just to feed propaganda directly to the public, so they can completely bypass the mainstream media because they've already ruined that. And to me, that's just another obstacle that we're going to face as citizens and as journalists in getting the truth to the people.
Wow, let's race through these final calls. He's got to go take photos of people fighting to stop homes from being repossessed by the banksters. Jim in Florida, Florida Keys, you're on the air.
Hello, I have one question for Amber, who is a investigative reporter and history buff, might be able to answer off the top of her head. What I'd like to know is, prior to the creation of the TSA Nazi force, how many men, women, or children, American citizens, have blown themselves, the plane, train, or bus that they were riding in up?
I don't know. I'm not.
Zero.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know an exact figure, but I can't remember any story in history where they have been, or we've had.
Well, no, they're making us the suspects. It's bureaucrats saying we're going to put our hands on you. It's the ultimate act of domination.
And even when reporters try to out the TSA, we had a reporter at CNN, Drew Griffin, who did a story against them, and they put him on a no-fly list. Yeah. I mean, they're trying to censor the story as well. So that. So
that is incredible despotism. That's total. Yeah. That's their pleading guilty to tyranny. I remember I covered that report. I think we had him on, where they put him on a list because he did the report.
Yeah, I know. And for anyone that thinks we have a sound government and law enforcement here, well, look at that. They tried to crush dissent. And that's, as a journalist, that's rough when you get put on that list, because you rely on your ability to travel to do your job. So it really set him behind on other investigations that he had to do because he couldn't travel. Or could you imagine if a family member had died and he needed to rush home to get to their funeral and wasn't able to do so because he was put on that list? They're directly trying to intimidate and silence the public and journalists and politicians as well.
Anything else, Jim?
Well, the only thing I'd like to say is that I'd sure like to see that fact published more often. And also with it, if possible, a rough idea of how much money the American public is spending to prevent something that never in the history of this country has happened.
I think it's like $6 billion a year. I can look up. Here, I'll look it up. Cost of TSA per year. Let's see if my little feeble memory can remember.
Let's try to look it up, too.
Exactly. Is TSA just another airport subsidy? And see, they have a fee on every ticket you get, but then they also get it says TSA's program to spot terrorists, $200 million sham. That's that fake thing where they take an 8-hour course, and now they can read minds. I mean, how about they can turn, lead into gold? I mean, it's like, 8-hour course. Or they can, 8-hour course, TSA can now sprout wings and fly. But I mean, last time I checked, it's billions and billions. I think 6 to 8 billion. The numbers.
Yeah, you're right. I'm seeing one source says about 8.1 billion in 2012 was their budget.
See, there you go. So I'm just going for my little pea brain, but I remember I was unable to find it, but she was able to find it.
You have a good memory, though, Alex. That's I just noticed that in talking with you. You have a really good memory. But,
thank you. Well, thank you. Well, I mean, that is one of my few gifts, I guess. But, I mean, it's kind of a curse sometimes, too. Because when they're lying about stuff, I'm like, I've been told 9 different things. It's like, wow, which one's true? Then you find out none of them are true. Okay, thank you, Jim. 3 more calls. Josh, Ken, and Freedom Fighter. Good to end with Freedom Fighter in a moment. Josh in California, you're on the air.
Hi, Alex. Hi, Amber. Amber, I'm very impressed with your courage and your work in the media. I just graduated journalism in my school myself, and I ran into a whole lot of censorship there. I tried reporting on local corruption and on bigger issues, and they didn't want to run.
Caller, I missed part of that end part. What'd you say? We lost him. Did you catch any of that, Amber?
I think he was about to tell us that his journalism school was censoring him, or maybe the local paper, but I didn't hear the rest of it.
Yeah,
so.
we didn't censor him, but here's an example. I've been invited to speak at University of Texas, St. Edwards, and others, and I would foolishly before go, and they'd have cops waiting when I got there and say, we're not sure if you can speak. The journalism department head wants to speak to you, and there'd be some man or woman freaking out, and they'd sit in the front row, and then they'd have, I mean, it was like, wow, in the journalism department now it's dangerous to have me come speak. And then I talk to the people that work at them, the way they make them rewrite everything and tell them, well, I don't like this view, say this. I mean, it's like weirdo control freaks in there teaching the opposite of journalism now in these higher education facilities.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised, too, if that was infiltrated by some type of Mockingbird government program. Because obviously people don't want journalism to succeed. Journalism is the biggest threat to corruption in many ways. And that's my fear too, Alex, is that you have these students like the caller who are graduating from these programs in schools not really even so confused as to what journalism is. Is journalism Alex Jones, or is journalism the celebrists like Anderson Cooper? I mean, what is it? And you know, that's something I'm hoping to revive as well. But in the end, journalism is publishing what someone else doesn't want published and really telling the truth, something you do often. And I think that, you know, I think I think that it's scary to a lot of people who don't want journalism to succeed, to have a whole new generation of students taught to be real journalists.
Two final calls. Ken in Minnesota, you're on the air with Amber Lyon. Go ahead, Ken. Okay, let's go to Freedom Fighter in Texas. Freedom Fighter, you're on the air. That happens occasionally with our own internal phone system. I'm not sure. Do we have those two callers faded up, or are we just going to be done with calls? Ken or Freedom Fighter, are you there? Okay. That's been happening more and more with that system. Sorry, callers. We're just trying to reboot the phone system here. You know, Amber, in closing, look, I mean, this is the great human challenge, what we're facing right now. This is the great quest here. And so, yeah, good people do nothing, bad people take over. In closing, do you have faith for the future of journalism, the press in this country? Because we see mainstream media losing audiences because people don't trust them, and they just can't stop. In fact, they get more sold out to foreign and corporate interest because now it's just about money. But will the money keep chasing fewer and fewer viewers?
I just have faith. I mean, they're losing viewers like crazy. So that's not. They're not succeeding in what they're doing. I have faith when I see something that tells the truth, like your program, that can compete with a CNN. That's what gives me faith. Because then you can take the message in their audience and you can give an equally as big audience the truth. Right now, we're at a horrible time in this country for journalism, you know, and that's scary because the people aren't getting the information they need. And now the government's going to be feeding them propaganda directly. So more than ever, we need investigative journalism and outlets to compete with that to get people the truth. And I think this is a time, too, Alex, where I love the quote that says, when good men go silent, evil prevails. I think it's the time people that are seeing corruption in their companies and out on the streets need to really stand up. Because we're running out of time. You know, the past 10 years, I've seen the oil spill. I've investigated the nuclear industry. That's a whole nother issue.
Oh, I got to get you on about that. In fact, just briefly, you actually went out there during the Gulf spill and swam around in that, didn't you?
Yeah, the water was the first time in my life as an avid scuba diver where the water actually became my enemy. And it was horrific to be surrounded and just piles of oil, and then at the same time see BP dumping dispersants on the oil to just float it 10 feet into the water column and act like it didn't exist. At one point I took a white towel in water that looked clear, dipped it in, and the towel came out brown. You know, so I saw them bury that story. I saw the U.S. nuclear industry bury the story of all these dilapidated plants that they're still running around the U.S. I mean, it is such
well, that's the thing. I mean, they're over 30 to 40 years old. They're rotting with the radiation. And then the EPA came out and just said, we'll raise the level of radiation and say it's safe.
Yeah, and you have these GE Mark I design plants, the same design as Fukushima that they knew back in 1970 were deficient, but decided not to rebuild. And now they've just been renewed for 20 more years in the U.S. We have 22 of them functioning in the U.S. And a lot of them are run by corporations that boldly have outright lied to the Nuclear Regulatory Commission.
Amber, we love having you on in the next few weeks or months, whenever you're ready. I'd love to have you on and like send us those exhibits and have you on to show these documents, because I'm aware of some of them. The phone system did, it'd be awesome. The phone system did crash and die. That's why we lost all those callers. Let's end with one caller or two callers. We have two women now. Jane in New Jersey, then Heather, and then that's it. Jane in New Jersey, you're on the air with a real journalist, Amber Lyon. Go ahead.
Thanks,
Hi, Alex. Hi, Amber. I just want to say that I think you're such a hero, Amber, for what you've done, and I'm just so proud of you. I sent an email over to CNN after I heard your story, and I got it back, but in the spam, they didn't answer me. And I thought it was kind of ironic because they had this big, long spiel in the email and the spam about voting for the hero of the year. And I want to vote for you. Because you should be winning that CNN Hero of the Year award. But,
well, that's a great story. Do you have a quick question?
No, I just wanted to say thank you for you, Alex. I listen to you every day. I've been unemployed 9 months, so right now I can't give to you, but I will.
Oh, please don't. Please do not.
As soon as I get back to work. And I just want to say thank you, Amber. You have a lot of courage, and you have something that they don't have, and that's called integrity.
That's right, and that's all we've got is our integrity. Wow. It's got to feel good to get calls like that. Thank you so much, ma'am. One final caller. Now they've loaded like 20 on there. We got to go in like 2 minutes. That was Jane in New Jersey. Heather in Virginia, you're on the air.
Yes, sir. Thank you for taking my call. I was in the military, and I just have a quick question for both of y'all. Since I'm a veteran, should I be worried about my safety concerning, what could happen in the future?
Well, they do demonize the veterans, but, I mean, this tyranny couldn't even take over New Orleans or conquer Baghdad, so a lot of it is just bluster and getting us to get in line. Amber?
Yeah, do you fear that, who are you scared of, safety-wise?
Well, I personally have suffered from PTSD and some really bad stuff in the military from my experience. And, reading what happened to the other gentleman, what happened to him because he posted stuff on Facebook. I don't even post anything political on Facebook. So I'm just worried.
Like I said, when good men go silent, evil prevails. So if you let that intimidation work, in the end, the press stood behind Brandon Robb, and it was exposed. What happened to him was exposed. So I don't think by any means you should let it silence you. If you let
Exactly. People always say, Alex, this is scary. You're trying to scare us. No, we need to get going because it's bad and say no to it. One final caller. Angel in Minnesota. You're on the air with Amber Lyon. Go ahead.
Hi there. Hi. I just have I have a comment about exposing things. The vaccinations with the children. I've got two poisoned children from the vaccinations, and they've suffered greatly from it. And it just really tears me up because I can't afford to fix them, and they hurt them bad. And I just want to make some connections with, the whole drug scene, right? They have poisoned my kids so bad that they have yeast overgrowth, right? And the yeast overgrowth is there because the good bacteria is killed. And what happens is the yeast overgrows so much that it grows roots and it perforates the walls of the intestines.
Yeah, no, I mean, they know the vaccines are killing the kids and all the big pharma corruption. It's just unbelievable. Amber, are you going to do any investigations into vaccines and the side effects?
Big Pharma has been the bane of my existence as a journalist, Alex. I'm definitely going to be covering them. And I think that if we had enough journalists actually going out and calling out these corporations and these pharmaceutical companies for their lies and their faulty vaccinations, then there'd be a public outrage and it would stop. Unfortunately, that hasn't happened to the level it needs to. So I'm hoping more exposure will be done in the future, and I'm so sorry for your struggles.
Yes, Angel, thank you so much for the call, and it hurts my heart to hear what you're talking about. So warn other women about what happened to you with vaccines so that their kids don't get damaged. That's why I talk about vaccines so much. Well, Amber, I want to get you back on about the nuclear industry and your research in that area. And again, thank you for the time. I know you're very, very busy. Muckraker.com, and I look forward to seeing all the investigative reports there. And I look forward to you talking about them here on this show. Thank you.
Awesome, Alex, and thank you so much for your support and really, taking time to spotlight a fellow journalist and give me a platform to let people know about what was going on at CNN. I really appreciate it.
Oh, hey, please don't thank me. We hang together or hang separate. We are all in this together. Amber Lyon, thank you so much.
Thank you, Alex.
All right, folks, that is it for my portion of the 48-hour transmission until I come back tomorrow. But we have got a giant laundry list here of amazing guests and people at Infowars Money Bomb. Larry Pinkney, a real founding member of the Black Panther Party, is coming up with Rob Dube. And then we've got J.B. Wells, syndicated radio host, Coast to Coast AM, the national voice talent. He's going to be on here with us this evening. And then we've got, for 2 hours, some big guests coming up. And the exhausted crew out there is doing an amazing job. Then Darrin McBreen, Richard Reeves, Rob Jacobson, David Knight, David Ortiz, Dan Bidondi, they've all got guests on. Paul Joseph Watson, Lord Christopher Monckton, Joel Skousen, and then you got me here tomorrow on Saturday. And, hey, it's free will. Don't give money if you don't want to. Give it if you want. It'll just go towards the fight. The good Lord does provide. I want to thank all of you that have donated. InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com. And, again, I want to thank the crew that puts up with me. I'm pretty nice overall, but also wild caveman, so they put up with a lot around here, and that's basically it. But I got a great job. I get to talk to heroes like Amber Lyon, and you, the listeners, are just amazing, and I love you. I mean, it's really that simple. All right, I got about 3 hours sleep last night, so I'm going to go to the Hacienda and see my children, and then get up early in the morning and come back in here to the studio. One big thing you can do, even if you can't donate, like that poor lady calling in, I don't want people that don't have money donating. It's all these people that do have money to donate or we're going to lose everything. But even if you are out of work for 9 months or whatever, hey, spread the word about the free video link at InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com and Infowars.com. Send it out to your Twitter, your Facebook. Go tell people about it, because this is a special 48-hour broadcast that ends. How many hours from 5:26 Central to 11 a.m. Central? How many hours we got left? Like 5 hours, 6, 7, and 17 hours left. Roughly for Infowars Money Bomb. Larry Pinkney coming up, InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com or 888-253-3139. Even if you just pick the phone up and call and say hi to our crew, it's the action. It's getting off the bench. It's getting out of the trance. It's taking action. I know we're in a depression. They want to make us poor so we can't vote with our dollars. I saw some guy on YouTube going, Jones is claiming there's organic food in stores because of him, because he said 15 years later we have organic food. I was saying 15, 20 years ago, there wasn't organic food hardly anywhere. People demanded it. Now it's available. I said slavery was ended because people finally said no to it. I wasn't saying because it was because of me. I tell you, the trolls will just, but they're not even trolls. They're just mentally ill. I mean, you got people one step up above from, the Miss Teen USA going, such as South Africa helping, such as. And it's just, I don't feel good that people are so dumbed down. I'm freaked out by it. Okay, InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com or link through at Infowars.com or 888-253-3139. People are going to be here straight through. And don't worry, I'm not going to bed. I think I'll Skype in tonight, do some YouTubes, and I'll also be calling into the show. No rest for the people that live in reality. And to all of you that have helped us, we love you. Thank you so much. We'll be back after this quick special report with Larry Pinkney and then John B. Wells with his guest. Stay with us.
I'm Darrin McBreen with Infowars Nightly News, and I'm here today at the Texas State Capitol. And we're about to find out if the people of Austin are aware that they are about to be hit by a wave of utility bill hikes as new EPA regulations drive up the cost of energy. What do you think about paying higher utility bills because of the EPA's new regulations against power plants?
You know, there may be some new regulations coming up against power plants at this point, but unfortunately right now I think that our citizens statewide and nationwide basically overburdened, especially with today's economic developments and situations that are going on. I think rate hikes should be at a minimal to at least try to alleviate some of the burden on our taxpayers and our citizens nationwide and statewide.
I know a lot of people that are going to be not only shocked but a little bit irritated about that as well. Sure. I mean, they're already, because it's such a hot summer.
Exactly.
You know, everybody's bills is already out through the roof.
You're already paying through the roof because the ACs are running nonstop, and then all of a sudden it's like, you know, on top of that, and with the downturn economy, yeah, it's doesn't seem to jive that well.
Of course, I don't want to pay higher utility bills. They're already extremely high right now as it is.
Well, I don't want to pay more because of the carbon dioxide thing. That doesn't seem right, especially if it's not even proven.
Generally, I prefer regulations that deter pollution and paying a little bit more for that than an unregulated environment.
It all has to be regulated some way, right? It's going to mess our environment up.
I understand the tax on carbon footprints, but I mean, who's getting a new Lexus, you know what I mean?
Do you think that carbon dioxide is dangerous?
I think carbon dioxide can be very dangerous.
Okay, what do plants breathe?
Carbon dioxide.
Yeah, I think carbon dioxide is definitely dangerous. Otherwise, there wouldn't be any rules and laws to prevent it being.
What do plants breathe?
Carbon dioxide.
Carbon dioxide is turned into oxygen by plants. So I mean, it has to be in the world.
Obviously, it's not all dangerous. Carbon dioxide isn't a dangerous gas, but when there's too much of it, it's a problem.
Carbon dioxide, even though it's a natural gas consumed by plants, it can be dangerous because, everyone says it has to do with global warming.
Behind me is the Holly Street Power Plant. It was partially closed in 2004 and officially shut down in 2007. Now it's simply a reminder of Austin's energy independence. What do you think about the fact that General Electric, one of Obama's biggest donors, that they get a waiver and they will not be subject to the regulation?
That sounds like politics and lobbyists at work. I mean, it's government, right? Okay. No surprise.
Sounds plausible.
Yeah, it sounds possible. There's no surprise about that.
General Electric doesn't need any favors from anybody. They're a multi-billion-dollar corporation.
Are you aware that some of these new regulations are also shutting down power plants, and this is causing some of the rolling blackouts throughout Texas?
No, I wasn't familiar with that, actually. Didn't realize that was going on.
Lobbyists make a lot of money striking these deals. There's a lot of things that we don't know, and how government, the tax breaks, the incentives, loopholes, you name it. So I think it's just one more to add to the list.
Well, as you can see, Alex, the people here in Austin, they're aware that their utility rates are going up, but they're not sure of the real cause. This is Darrin McBreen with Infowars Nightly News.
When you wake up in the morning and the light has hurt your head, the first thing you do when you get up out of bed.
Good afternoon. It is 5:32 Central, and you're watching a 48-hour Money Bomb. I'm your host here, Rob Dew, sitting in. Alex, really, he's been going at it for a long time, and he asked me to come in and interview Larry Pinkney, and we're going to get him on real quick because we don't have much time before John B. Wells comes up. So Larry Pinkney is a veteran of the Black Panther Party and former Minister of Interior of the Republic of New Africa. He's basically the real deal when it comes to activism, and he's been targeted by federal authorities. He's been put in positions where, sort of like what we have with some of these patsies, where we find FBI informants coming in and providing all the resources and all the thought and all the brain power necessary. I don't know, I'm saying this is in Larry's case, but where we see the FBI basically entrapping these people. And without further ado, let's bring on Larry Pinkney. How are you doing today, Larry?
Hey, I'm great, Rob. It's fantastic to hear your voice, and I want to thank everyone, and especially you and Alex and all of the staff. Thanks so much.
Well, we're glad to have you. It's good to have a real activist out there who really is working for positive change in the community and not just this theoretical change that really isn't anything but a control mechanism. And how do you feel about the stories that were coming out of people saying they were going to riot if Obama loses, and also about how people were tweeting that they were going to assassinate Mitt Romney?
Well, you know, I think that this is a part of the corporate stream control manipulation apparatus. You know, if somebody wants to riot if Obama loses, well, we're already looking at an idiot, aren't we? And when it comes to all of these kinds of stories, I think that that's a wider part of provocateurs. And when I say provocateurs, I'm talking now on a corporate government level. Get people riled, excited, in a negative fashion, get people in fear, keep people in fear of each other. You know, I have heard, in fact, a relative of mine said that to me, Larry, did you hear that so-and-so, that, you know, black people might riot or so-and-so might riot? Well, you don't want to riot. Let's be blunt. We've got an economic situation that is absolutely outrageous. We have a situation where we have a Predator drone missile president who has his own personal kill list. We have a president who has declared war on the people of this nation and of the entire world. And, you know, we have, talking about riot, let's riot with our minds. Forget all that nonsense about rioting. Half of them, I wonder if they can even spell the word riot. And I don't care what the color is, black, white, brown, red, or yellow. You know, we're all in this struggle together, or we should be. So,
exactly. Let's go after the true enemy and not this fake enemy where it's trying to pit the people of America against each other, because that's all it's trying to do. That's what this type of talk does. All it does is ferment this thing. And I just want to bring this up. You were talking about a drone president. Pakistan Interior Minister, 80% killed by drones are innocents. Only 2% are militant leaders. So they're just going around just shooting people and blowing them up with these drones. It's indiscriminate and it's disgusting. And it's in our name. It's in our name.
Right. It's murder. Let's be blunt. Barack Obama is a war criminal. That's what he is, folks. Let's wake up, smell the roses. Obama is a war criminal, and he's declared war, as I said, not only on the people in Pakistan or Afghanistan or Yemen. The list is almost endless. North Africa and Libya, East Africa and Somalia. These people being killed overwhelmingly have nothing whatsoever to do with the so-called war on terrorism. The war on terrorism is a war on the American people and on everyday people by none other than our corporate-controlled Democrat and Republican government. That's what this is about. And we need to wake up and get real. Put that color nonsense aside. Yes, there's racism. So what else is new? We have to deal with this struggle collectively. We must deal with it collectively. Sorry, I went on a rant there.
No, that's quite all right. I appreciate your rants. I remember the first time you came on, we had you cranked up in the other room as we were getting ready for the nightly news, because you are a breath of fresh air. You got passion, you've got intensity, and you really know where the power structure is. And you get a lot of people out there that want to just yell and scream, but they're not even sure who they're yelling and screaming at. And, I mean, it's just, you understand how it is. I want to quickly give out the, because we are doing our 48-hour money bomb. You can go to InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com or call in by phone, 888-253-3139. That's 888-253-3139. And, Larry, let me ask you this. When did you first become aware of InfoWars.com and the Alex Jones radio show?
You know what? I had heard of the show, I would say, only about maybe 2.5 years ago. And then I believe about a little over a year ago, someone told me, you know what, you need to tune in. You need to listen to this. You need to watch this. So I'd say a little over 2 years ago.
Right. And so Do you agree that basically Infowars is the tip of the spear in this fight against basically the Republicans and the Democrats, that corporate control structure that sits on top, and then above that it's these vulture bankers?
Absolutely.
I mean, I don't know who else out there is as big as this organization, and who can bring the fight to them, and who can get issues out there better than we can at this point.
Well, the fact of the matter is that Infowars needs to be supported, all right? I'm just going to be blunt about it, because it is very, very rare. In fact, I frankly don't know of any other major entity such as Infowars that is really putting itself on the line to get the truth out there. When I say the truth, I mean the information to the people, so that people really, really have it. So, yes, and let me also say this. Let me be clear about this. You all didn't ask me to say this, but I'm going to say it. Support Infowars. Support it, because by supporting Infowars, this organization, what you're doing is you're supporting the dissemination of critical thinking, information. And I love the term Infowars, because sisters and brothers and sisters, that's what it's all about, Infowars.
That's right, and there is no race when we all come together. It's all for one and one for all. We have to stand together. We have to realize that it's our brothers and sisters that are going out there and being put into tent cities because of this economic implosion that has been designed. It is the offshoring. It's when they say free trade agreements, what that is a code word to send all the factories offshore to China and then ship the goods back in. So you don't have manufacturing jobs. You don't have those jobs that people who didn't have a college education, or even those who had college education, could go out and get a decent paying job that provided for a family. We just don't have that anymore. It is just going to the tubes. Really, it's literally heading to China. I drew a little picture here. We are actually 1/4 of the way to our goal at this point, 225,000, and we want to get to 1 million, and we really do need the money to make that next jump. And it basically is like a hyperspace jump that we go to when we get this money bomb money, and it lets us take it to the next level. So we're 1/4 away. We're 17 hours left. This is the time now where if you can't give any money, then send the link to all your friends. Send the link to all the people on your email list. Send it to the Facebooks, the MySpaces. Get the word out and get people, hey, contribute $20. We get 100,000 people contributing $20. We're there. That's it. And we can do this. We can reach this goal. We can show the trolls and the haters out there that people do care about information, and people care about getting it out there in the face of what we're facing, which is, total tyranny if we don't win.
That's right. That's right. And the fact of the matter is, I was listening to the news earlier, just before I came on. And I was listening to someone talking about General Electric, okay, GE, which of course is one of Obama's biggest supporters, along with Lockheed, et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, I want to point out, for example, to the listening audience, and I would urge them to support Infowars, all right? But I want to point out, for example, give an example of what you just said, Rob. General Electric, GE, people think about light bulbs and power. Well, what we ought to be thinking about are weapons, because GE makes timers for bombs, for missiles. It does a great deal of work on nuclear submarines. When I say work, I mean they make money, folks. We're talking millions and ultimately trillions of dollars.
No bid contracts.
That's right. That's right. So also understand, when it comes to the media, that's why I said I love that name, Infowars, because that's what it's about. We must free our minds. And this is precisely the opposite of what the corporate Democrat and Republican police state structure wants us to do. They don't want us to free our minds. They want just the opposite. General Electric, folks, did you know that GE owns 49% of NBC? How's that for democracy? How are you going to get news from NBC or any of those other corporate stream media outlets, including, by the way, PBS and MSNBC? All right, how are you going to get real news, honest news, when these entities are in fact controlled by these blood-sucking, avaricious corporations? Please,
That's right. And they've taken a long time to build this grid. It didn't spring up overnight. It really has been a long-term job for them to create this pyramid of evil that we're facing. I mean, we really are facing up against, you know, not a ton of people, but people with a lot of money, people with control of a lot of money. And they are doing it with pressure from above and pressure from below. I have a story here. Welfare spending jumps 32% in Obama's presidency. These are people that aren't being empowered. They are being dependents. They're becoming dependents of the state, and they are going to follow the state, and they're going to get those messages that are, hey, do you want this? Do you still need this, right? Then vote for Obama and vote for, or even voting for Romney. It's going to be the same thing. You got to, what you got to do, I think, is not vote or vote third party so we can get some real debates in here coming up. You know, we get that 5% for the Libertarian Party, and they get some money, and it kind of levels the playing field. But we definitely don't have two parties. This total farce that we have, this two-party system. I mean, these guys, they both want war. They both want to spend our money. And they both want to control what we do, and they just keep ratcheting it up slowly and surely. Larry, what's going on in your world now? What are the biggest issues that you're dealing with?
Well, the biggest issues, I think, at the moment that I'm dealing with is trying to get people to understand basically what we're talking about. And what I'm referring to is that the system is controlled, that it's rigged. I'm trying to get people in my articles that I write for blackcommentator.com and intrepidreport.com to understand that it's rigged, folks. It's rigged. We might even consider, for that matter, boycotting this fake election. You know, it's nothing more than a C-election anyway. You know, what are we really voting for? The right to have the Electoral College make our votes null and void? Is that what we're voting for? Are we writing? I mean, let's really fundamentally, let's be radical. And when I say radical, all I mean is root, R-O-O-T. Go to the root of it, okay? Let's be radical, critical thinkers about this. And, Rob, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to urge people, even though I know it enrages the powers that be, so be it, to critically think. I'm trying to get people of all colors, black, white, brown, red, and yellow people, to understand that we are all being pimped, used, had, bamboozled, as Brother Malcolm X used to say. We're being bamboozled, whether it's Barack Obama, Mitt Romney, Democrat, Republican. It's time for the people, everyday people, to take this system. So as always, Rob, I'm pushing, I'm writing, I'm doing what organizing I can to get people to think and then to act accordingly. We've got to do this. There's so much at stake. There's also so much at stake right now. Support Infowars. Support Infowars. Support the ability of an entity such as this, an organization such as this, to keep getting this information out. That is absolutely critical.
I totally agree. And we were just throwing up a couple of your articles from blackcommentator.com and intrepidreport.com. I mean, and you're basically saying what you just said there is what you're writing about. That we have to all come together, and what we're seeing is not real. It is totally this fake manufactured. I mean, they had an agreement before they went into the second debate of, we couldn't bring up follow-up questions. Nobody's going to go off script, or, here's your talking points. I mean, it's ridiculous. And then people still made a big deal out about it, and it doesn't mean anything. It's totally, and this next one, I think there's one Monday night. It's going to be fake too.
Yes, of course. I mean, this is a fake system talking about a fake election, trying to keep the people or make the people fakes. If it's one thing that's not a fake, it's we the people. And it's time for we the people to regain our humanity. Take it back. Because the fakesters, the tricksters, the bamboozlers out there are doing everything that they can to control. And you're so right, Rob. People talk about debate. What debate? How can they call it a debate between the Democrats and the Republicans? That's like somebody sitting on the telephone talking to themselves. There wasn't a debate. It was an absolute farce.
That was a play. Somebody wrote the script already. I mean, the script was already done.
Absolutely.
And I got a degree in theater, and I know exactly how you put a play on. And you have different actors, and you have surprises, and you have different things you do to suspend people's disbelief, to make them think it is real. It's real, and it's not real. These are two actors, and they're not even very good. It's sad. It's sad that this is the best that we're putting up here, is a so-called best, and this is what we get. Larry, are you interested in taking some phone calls?
Sure. If that can in any way be helpful, I'd love to.
All right, let's load up the phones. You can call us now at 877-789-ALEX. That's 877-789-ALEX. And Larry, do you go out and appear anywhere in public? Do you have any events coming up?
Well, not as of yet. I have the last event that I spoke at in public, the last major event, was at the Syracuse University College of Law. And I was speaking about basically some of the same things we're talking about today. But my upcoming events, I will certainly make sure people know about them through Intrepid Report and Black Commentator. Well,
when you go to these, like say when you went to Syracuse, were there a lot of people interested in what you had to say? Did you have a big crowd, or are these students already been brainwashed? I mean, what is your opinion?
I like your being blunt. That's great. The fact of the matter is a large percentage of them were already brainwashed. But the beauty of that particular situation was that there were a number of community people there who didn't even attend Syracuse University, in addition to the law students, etc. So it was fantastic. It was a great opportunity to really put it on the law students. Say, look, are you for real? Are you shucking or jiving? Do you mean what you say? And by the way, who are you working for? What is your objective? Is it to work for some big corporate firm and make tons of money at the expense of the poor folk, everyday folk of all colors? I was able to do that. And it was great in that sense, because community people, poor folk, were there. And they were extremely supportive. So the message is getting out there.
Well, that's good. People who aren't under the influence of the magic mainstream media pixie dust are awake, and it's mainly common sense. I mean, a lot of these people know what's going on, and it's just a matter of they just need to know that other people are out there. I mean, I remember when I first discovered Alex Jones, I didn't know there was other people who really thought like I did. I'd talked to some professors when I was getting out of college. I'd read the book None Dare Call It Conspiracy, and also one by Ralph Nader called Who Runs Congress. Those two books really woke me up onto, like, one on an international level and one on a national level, on just how the system is being scammed. And I talked to some professors, and they're like, well, sometimes you got to go along to get along. And, it's just, don't speak out. Just go along to get along, and you'll do fine in this world. You're a smart guy. You just settle down, because I was getting fired up about this stuff, and I was wanting to put on productions, and I was really pissing off the older professors, because I wanted to do my own thing. I wanted to put on stuff, and I wanted to make people think. And one thing when you're talking about these law students, which really I like to see now, is this jury nullification. I think that's something where we can really make some changes, is getting well-informed juries, because they just had a case up in New Hampshire where there was a 55-year-old guy growing marijuana in his backyard for his own personal use, and the jury said, you know what, we're not going to put this guy in jail. We're not going to ruin his life and his children's life, because he's not hurting anybody. He's doing it for himself. He's not selling it, and we're not going to throw the book at him. And they just let him off, just like that.
Right on.
And that's what it is. I think that's a spot there we can really take on, is getting informed juries. And that's one thing, when you do order any product from Infowars, we do send you out a Citizens Rulebook, which has the whole jury handbook in there, the Well-Informed Jury Handbook. I don't know the exact name of it right now. In fact, I'll look for it in a second if we got one in here. But it really does give you all the steps. The thing, jurors are allowed to ask questions. I've never seen a jury ask questions, because they don't know that they can ask questions. And that's the key. The key is giving them those nuggets of information where they can just take it and run with it, because people will do the right thing as long as they know what to do.
That's right. And we have to understand, don't go for the hype. They want to tell us that people are fundamentally or intrinsically evil. That is not true. People are not intrinsically evil. People are intrinsically open. They are intrinsically good. But what happens is we become manipulated, controlled. We're played off against each other. And the thing about juries, believe me, I know, having many times bumped heads, to put it very mildly, with this so-called legal system, a so-called justice system. In reality, it's the system of injustice. I love what you just talked about. Which state was that, Rob, did you say?
That was in New Hampshire, and I think that if you type in keyword New Hampshire 55-year-old Rastafarian jury nullification, and it'll pop right up. In fact, I'll do that right now when we go to this call, and I'll bring up. And then there was another one that I just read where they nullified another case in another state. So it is happening. People are getting informed. There's people out there that they make this their life mission to go out and just inform people about the well-informed juror, because that is where we do have power. That is a spot where you can have immediate change on the system. And that's what we need to do, is go out there and take on the system and not be afraid.
That's right. That's right.
We got a few callers lined up. Let's go to Mark in California. Do you have a question for Larry Pinkney?
Hey, gentlemen. How you doing?
We're doing great. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm pretty familiar with that jury nullification. Also, there was a book that I read, David Barton, and they said that the jury has, the right to, the punishment if the person's found guilty or whatever. So, but I've been in a jury where I actually heard the judge say, there's not going to be any jury nullification. I remember back then I just said I couldn't believe it, and it was a hot topic about 10 years ago, but they do have the right.
We need to bring it back. I think. And here's the article right here. You guys can bring it up on my computer. New Hampshire jury acquits pot-growing Rastafarian. And basically, the governor signed a bill declaring in all criminal proceedings the court shall permit the defense to inform the jury of its right to judge the facts and application of the law in relation to the facts in controversy, which I guess means they can nullify if they want to. That sounds like lawyer talk to me, but that's how, and I think this is the tip of the iceberg, because now this is happening, especially with marijuana cases. I mean, it's a travesty. This is a medicine. It can be used industrially. I mean, my slogan is I think we should be growing it in Texas. Grow hemp, grow Texas, because that is how we're going to. That's a new industry we can start now that we don't have currently in this country. We import the stuff in, and we could be an exporter of it and have. We have so much time. Like, you could have millions of growing seasons with it. But anyway, Larry, what do you think about what the caller just said?
Well, I concur, and I want to thank the caller very much. I think he's calling from California. That's my old home state, California. I think that what we're really talking about, speaking of California, is what we used to say in the Black Panther Party. I'm talking about the real Black Panther Party, not those frauds. The new Black Panther Party. We used to say in the party, all power to the people. That's what this struggle is all about. All power to the people. So it just brings joy to my heart. Rob, you said we've got to stand up. You're right. We've got to stand up, band together, not be afraid. They want us to be afraid. The hell if we're going to be afraid. No, we're going to stand up, band together, protect each other, and change this damn rotten, filthy, corrupt political system.
I hear you. You're hearing Larry Pinkney out on the airwaves today on this 2012 48-hour money bomb, and we have Tom in Connecticut. Tom, how's it going today?
I'm doing very well, thank you. It's a pleasure to talk to both of you. And yes, I've donated $25, and I figured I'd do my part. Larry, it's so good to hear from you. It's so good to hear you talking out there, because I know that you've been involved with a lot of things like the free breakfast for kids and, health care and political education classes, so that people get to know this stuff. I remember I was 12 in 1970 in the New Haven County area, and I'm sure you know all about what happened out there. And I want to know if the FBI is still involved in the COINTELPRO with the Black Panthers to this day. And also, I was wondering if some of the old crew from that era are joining you and trying to get the message out about unifying the people as opposed to so that we can oppose the elite and get our country back.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for
That's a good question.
Absolutely. Let me answer it as best I possibly can. And let me say, first of all, that yes, I do stay in touch with veterans of the party. In fact, before I was on the program today, I was in contact with the sister Kilu and Yasha, who, by the way, speaking of Connecticut, was originally from Connecticut, was in the party in Connecticut, and then later in the party in California, in the Bay Area. So yes, she's only one of many, veterans of the party that I do stay in touch with, or I should say we stay in touch with one another and try to get this message out. It is very difficult, of course, because today the FBI, the National, the NSA, the FBI, there are over 14 different intelligence agencies. And folks, it's not just intelligence, it's agent provocateuring. So this is still going on. COINTELPRO, counterintelligence program, has morphed into a lot of different insidious forms. One of those forms is that it has been legally, check this out now, legally codified in the so-called National Defense Authorization Act, the NDAA, that Obama signed on December 31st, 2011. And so to answer your question directly, yes, COINTELPRO is still very active. Yes, in fact, if anything, it's even more insidious today. And unfortunately, we've got to get off of our horses, get off the saddles, and get out there. Well, not unfortunately, it's really fortunate, but we must get out there and do what we were doing in the 60s and the 70s. We've got to educate, agitate, organize, and obviously you are aware of that. And it's a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you so very, very much.
Hey, Tom, thank you for your support as well. We have time for one more call. I'm going to go to Nicholas in Vegas. You're our tail gunner today. What is your question for Larry Pinkney?
For you, Rob, and then Mr. Pinkney can chime in if he wants. Is that okay?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. Yes, I'd been trying to get a hold of you and one of your new hosts on the show about getting Sophia Stewart, the mother of the Matrix and Terminator, on the show. And I was curious what's the best way to do that, because I've sent you guys some press releases in the past.
Well, I guess the best thing to do is send me an email, robd@infowars.com, put "Hey Rob" in the subject line, and that's the best way to get in touch with me. Let's go. So do you have a question for Larry?
No, not specifically.
Okay.
No.
Well, yeah, that's the best way to get in touch with me. I'm going to let you go. I want to get one more call in for Larry. We got Miguel in North Dakota. Let's go to Miguel, and you will be our tail gunner today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and I appreciate you for being part of the show, Larry. I wanted to commend you about when you spoke up about riots. It's my belief when it comes to rioting that the government wants a hostile confrontation, and we as the people need to be sensible about the matter of protesting in a respectable way. I was wondering, as far as, when it comes to Occupy movement and whatnot, what's a more sensible way that we can be, I guess the word is to have more camaraderie and to speak up in a sensible way about this?
That's a good question.
I think that, and thank you. And you're in North Dakota?
Yeah, but I'm from Vallejo, California, but I'm actually working up here right now.
Oh, my God, Vallejo. I know Vallejo very, very, very well. Anyway, yes, I think that it's very important for us, and this may sound simple, but it's very difficult for many people. First, we have to be honest with each other. All this PC nonsense where we can't say this and can't say that, we got to cut that out. Be honest with each other. We're going to disagree sometimes, but we're going to agree overwhelmingly about our common interests. I think the Occupy movement was a good beginning, but only a beginning in this sense, in the 21st century, because the struggle has been going on a long time. So I have a great deal of hope, for what's ahead. I am determined to break through the barriers of color, of gender, of any other barriers that this corporate government puts up to try and block us. We've got to come together. We'll have our differences, as Malcolm said, in the closet, but when we come out, we're going to be united.
You know, one thing I always liked about the original Black Panthers was that, you know, in addition to educating and feeding and providing resources for people locally, they like to open carry guns. They walked around with shotguns and said, you know what, you're not going to push us around, government. We don't care. We're carrying guns. You want to go? We're right here. We're not backing down, but we're not going to strike first. We're just going to hold our guns. How do you feel about gun ownership, Larry?
Look, defense. I think, don't we have a constitution? Well, yeah. I have to really wonder about that after what Obama has done and these Republican cohorts of his. But constitutionally, it's all right. And as far as going back, as far as the days of the original Black Panther Party, the party was originally called the Black Panther Party for self-defense. All right. And I also want to emphasize to everyone that we work with all people, black, white, brown, red, and yellow people, all people of all colors, which is also one of the reasons that the government was extremely upset at us and determined to destroy us, and one of the reasons I was so viciously attacked.
Wow. And you know, we're out of time today, Larry, but I want to get you on maybe next week or the week after on the nightly news, and we could talk about how you were demonized and how basically the government came in and totally destroyed the Black Panther Party, and now they've given this rebirth to this new Black Panther Party, which isn't really for the people. It's for these little special interests that kind of run behind the scenes and say this, say this. You know, these little control freak people. But we appreciate you coming on today for the Money Bomb, and we will talk to you soon. I'll get in touch with you right after this. I'll send you an email, and we'll get you scheduled on the nightly news, because I like your spirit, man. I'd like to get more of that out there to the people.
Thank you, and stay strong.
All right, well, I'll do that. We're going to go to a quick break, and we're going to be back with John B. Wells. I want to read this quick email. We were going to have we were trying to get Russell Means on during the 24-hour or 48-hour marathon. So I'm going to read this real quick. He sent us, or his wife sent us this email in return. Hello, my relatives. I know you are concerned about my health, and I want to thank you for your strong prayers and for all the ceremonies taking place on my behalf. On August 20th, 2012, I learned I have new cancer spots. I'm in Scottsdale, Arizona, where I have fantastic medical teams utilizing both alternative and Western applications. We are working toward a solid program that will enable me to come home to my ranch on the Pine Ridge Sioux Indian Reservation within the next few weeks. I'm sorry I'm not available for comments, as I need all of my energy to fight for my life once again. I love you and look forward to regaining my life. May the great mystery continue to guide and protect the paths of you and your loved ones. Russell Means. And in honor of that, and that he can't be here today, I do want to play a little excerpt from an interview that Aaron Dykes and I actually went to the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation and had pretty much an all-day affair with Russell Means. He was very hospitable, him and his wife and the rest of his family there. And so send your prayers to Russell Means, because he needs it. He needs to get back out there. He is a true voice in the wilderness trying to warn people, and he's been doing it for years, and he's been, you know, being an activist for years. So with that, we're going to go to break, and we'll be back with John B. Wells. It's the 48-hour Money Bomb, InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com. I'm Rob Dew.
Special transmission. And because 2012 is an incredibly important year, we're going from a special 24-hour broadcast to 48 hours, jam-packed with special guests, calls, breaking news, reports. If you want to see the full roster of amazing special guests and reports that we're going to be airing, as well as guest host, be sure and visit InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com.
The Social Security system, that everyone born and has to have a Social Security number, or you can't get anything. In fact, your parents can even go to jail if they don't get you a Social Security number. Now, with Indians, not only do we have a Social Security number for that area of indebtedness, but our reservation and all its value, including the people on it, not only are we indebted on the Social Security number bit, but we're also featuring the State Attorney General of the state of South Dakota and all the other states that have Indian reservations. They trade that reservation and the value of that reservation and the value of its people, the value of its air, the value of its carbon emissions, are traded on Wall Street, through Dun & Bradstreet. It's listed. This value is put into financial instruments that are packaged and repackaged, just like the real estate fiasco. So we haven't even hit on all the swindles that Wall Street is visiting upon the people of America. You're nothing but a bunch of coupons for the United States government and the people who run it. That's it. American people, you're a commodity, and you don't deserve anything else. And they're going to make sure you continue to be a commodity as long as the empire exists, as long as you allow the Constitution to be raped. This land now filled with Indians that are absolutely dependent on the government for everything. For everything. At any rate, you depend on the government, and what you'll end up with is poverty and a lot of paper. Because everything you do, the government requires a lot of paper. You have to fill out a lot of forms. Then they have to fill out a lot of forms. And then they go up to the next level of government, they got to fill out a lot of forms. And by the time it gets to where it's supposed to go, nothing happens. We have government health here. Our life expectancy, if you don't count AIDS, is the lowest in the world. Here. We are worse off than people in Haiti. Not only physically, but of the heart, our spirit, our reason to live. No, you don't want the government taking care of you. I do not speak untruths. Our land held in trust by the federal government, so we can't get loans, so we can't get businesses. That's some more paperwork you have to apply for. Our casino, the money goes first to the Bureau of Indian Affairs, then we have to write proposals to utilize the money. It's a never-ending cycle of poverty, dependency on the government. And in order for you to get ahead, you have to be like a congressman. You have to take bribes. You have to steal money, taxpayers' money. So America's no different than this Indian reservation. You're dependent on the government now, and you're getting what you deserve. But every time you try to get away from the government, they'll kill you. Or put you in prison. Or let you become an American. If you catch my drift. Because you're the new Indian.